welcome to the Extraordinary Planning Committee of the 16th of April 2026. Just got a few announcements to make. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed by HDC. Members and officers must use the desk microphones in order for this to work. Only 2 microphones in addition to the chairman's can be on at the same time. Mobile phones, members and the public should switch off their phones, please. Fire exits. The fire exits are there, and the meeting point is at the top of Mill Hill Car Park. Now, the council is aware that planning applications may be controversial and emotive for those affected by the decisions made by this committee. However, everyone present is reminded that the council will not tolerate abusive or aggressive behaviour towards staff or other visitors attending this meeting, and anyone behaving inappropriately will be required to leave the meeting and the building. Now, we've just had some sad news on Tuesday with the death of Councillor David Gare, who was a valued member of this committee. David was passionate about representing his community, having been a long-standing member of Lutterworth Town Council before joining Harborough District Council as a councillor for Lutterworth East in 2023. Prior to joining Harborough District Council, he served as a Town Council representative on our Standards Committee, and following his election, he was appointed Chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, as well as serving on the Planning Committee. He was always willing to help out in any way and often subbed for absent colleagues. We will all miss him greatly. We are now going to have a minute's silence in tribute for Councillor Gare, and the officers will time it for us.
Thank you. That's a minute.
Thank you. We'll carry on now with our meeting. We'll start with introductions to the committee. Councillor Wellband, would you like to start?
Yes, Simon Wellband, representing Kibworth Ward.
Councillor Mark Groves, Broughton Bastley, South and Lear.
Rosita Page, Ullesop Ward.
Peter James, Little Bowden Ward, Market Harborough.
Ella Newman, Democratic Services Manager and Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Keith Thompson, Legal Services.
Adrian Eastwood, Head of Service Development Management.
Councillor Amanda Burrell, Chair of this committee.
Nicola Parry, Development Management Team Leader.
Ruth Meadow-Smith, Strategic Growth Officer.
Mark Patterson, Strategic Growth Manager.
David Atkinson, Director of Planning.
Councillor Neil Bannister, representing the Dunton Ward, and can I thank you, Chair, for those kind remarks concerning our late colleague, Councillor David Gare, and I wish to be associated with those remarks. Thank you.
Peter Elliott, Thurmby Houghton Ward.
Peter Scott, Glen Ward.
Councillor Dr. Paul Bremner, Logan Ward, and I'd like to add my word of thanks to the Chair as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence. Apologies have been received from Councillor Moder, who is substituted by Councillor Mrs Page, and Councillor Worrell, who is substituted by Councillor Dr Bremner. Item 2, declarations of interest. Has anyone got anything to declare? Councillor Page? Mrs Page?
Yes, only by virtue of the application 2501-5650 and 2501-737 REM being in my ward.
Right, thank you very much. Because this is an extraordinary meeting, we don't have any minutes to approve, so we'll go right on with the applications. On page 3 of your papers, 25/00209/FUL and LBC, replacement of existing areas of render, a decked area and a new outbuilding at the Rose and Crown, Main Street, Tilton on the Hill. And Nicola Parry is going to present for us. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you. Good evening, members and members of the public. Okay, so this application relates to the well-known Rose and Crown Public House in the centre of Tilton on the Hill that you can see in the aerial photograph before you that I'm just circling here. The site lies within the village conservation area, and the Grade 1 listed St Peter's Church is next to the site, which again I'm just pointing out to you here. You can see the dark yellow is indicating the listed building, so this area is very highly sensitive in heritage terms. When assessing the current proposal before you, members should set aside the visual impacts of the existing unauthorised beer garden seating and enclosure on the car park, as well as the unauthorised grey lean-to structure and the timber bin store enclosure, which you'll see in some of the photographs. So this is a view taken from the main road. Again, you can see the Grade 1 listed church, you can see the pub, you can see the lean-to structure here that I was just referring to, the bin store, and then the existing unauthorised seating area again that I was just referring to, and then this building here is a residential dwelling. Again, some more close-ups of the church and the pub. Again, this is taken on the opposite side of the road. Again, you can see the church and the pub. Again, it's very highly visible. Again, another view looking the other way. And this is the seating area that I was just talking about that's unauthorised, and then obviously the neighbouring residential dwelling. Okay, so the proposal can be separated into 3 distinct elements. The first one is the removal of the cement render and replacement with lime render. This is judged to be of a straightforward benefit to the listed building and its surroundings, and subject to control by planning condition is fully supported. Then we have the installation of a plastic decked area enclosed by a wall and glazed screen to create an outdoor seating area on part of the car park, and a timber serving outbuilding accompanies this. So again, you can see the layout plan before you. You can see the seating area and the little serving hut just here. And these are the elevations, so serving hut and then the seating area. This raises some amenity concerns about its impacts on the immediately adjacent dwelling. Officers recommend planning conditions to control its use and mitigate its impacts. When its amenity impacts are weighed against the benefits of the outdoor seating to the business and the community and the existing impacts of the car park, officers consider that the amenity impacts are not significant enough to warrant refusal. Some amendments have been undertaken which seek to improve the appearance and reduce the heritage impacts of the decking and serving hut proposal. Its visual impacts remain more functional than historically sensitive and high quality. The timber serving hut would have the appearance of a shed. Overall, this part of the proposal is judged to lead to a degree of less than substantial harm to heritage interests. However, in this case, the public benefits, namely the community and economic benefits of the proposal, are judged to outweigh the harm, and approval is recommended subject to conditions to control its use of materials. The third element, this is the front extension. The design of this aspect of the proposal is regrettably judged to be poor and harmful to the multiple heritage assets of local and national importance. But the substantial benefits of the proposal are not considered to outweigh the harm. It's wider in the width than the main listed asset, with a lower quality squatter roof pitch. Its materials will exacerbate its appearance. It proposes a roller shutter garage door on its conspicuous gable end. It would have the appearance from the public realm of being a low quality, oversized shed, which is out of place with its high order heritage context. A temporary consent for an extension of the type and substance proposed would not be a reasonable condition for the LPA to impose. The structure is not movable and would be of significant cost. It would not be reasonable to allow such investment and then require its removal. Its impacts must be judged to be acceptable in perpetuity or not. It is judged that there are various other potentially acceptable solutions, such as that have been suggested to the applicant, and as you will have read in your report. Potentially quite a large movable structure may be acceptable, which could serve as a high quality bespoke advertisement for the business, as well as fulfilling the additional cooking and serving objectives of the business. It would be generally movable. It could be changed to adapt to business needs. A temporary consent for such a movable structure would be feasible. The applicant has installed a movable structure without consent, but unfortunately this is not of an acceptable quality to respect the listed building and historic environment. Alternatively, a better quality design for an extension might be acceptable. The NPPF advises that when considering the impact of development on the significance of designated heritage assets, great weight should be given to the asset's conservation. It goes on to advise that significance can be harmed or lost through the alteration or destruction of those assets, and that any such harm should have a clear and convincing justification. Officers find the harm to be less than substantial, but nevertheless of considerable importance and weight. Where a proposal will lead to less than substantial harm to the significance of a designated heritage asset, the NPPF advises that this harm should be weighed against the public benefits of the proposal. When weighed against the social and economic benefits, the proposal would fail to preserve the special historic interest of the Grade 2 listed building and the setting of the Grade 1 listed St Peter's Church, and the character and appearance of Tilton on the Hill Conservation Area would neither be conserved nor enhanced. This would fail to satisfy the requirements of the Listed Building and Conservation Area Act, Section 16 of the Framework, and conflict with Harbour Local Plan Policies GD8 and HC1. Officers are therefore recommending the application is refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Now we have some speakers on this application. The first speaker is Jamie Gayton. If you'd like to come forward and sit at the table, please. If you want to press the microphone on. You've got 3 minutes to speak and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Start whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the Council. Thank you for allowing me to present my case to you in person, which I'm asking for your support of. It's not only to save the village pub, but also 14 youngsters that we employ. And thank you for the support on the render and the garden area. Interestingly enough, being quoted £20,000 just to build a garden area. Which is considerable. And this is why the building at the top really is required to provide that additional income. By way of background, I purchased the venue in December 22 as a commercial asset from my pension fund. And whilst this is well supported by some of the villagers, we also have to be a destination venue due to our location in Tilton. And we worked very hard over 3 years to build a venue that has a great reputation and an all-inclusive environment that both Claire and I and the village can be proud of. We keep the costs down as much as we can by both working there. We do all the jobs from pot washing, the cellar work, we wait and we work on the bar. We both work over 60 hours a week for less than a minimum wage. It's well documented that pubs are struggling and they've had rising costs in alcohol duties, food costs, employment costs, electricity costs. Hours have doubled and now subsequently we're going to have to pay business rates as well. Much of these we can't pass on to customers just because of the general cost of living for everybody. We've had a number of challenges over those 3 years. We've had 13 chefs. They can come and go as they please. They're in high demand and very short supply following COVID, despite the fact that they're paid £25 an hour. Due to the nature of our kitchen, and the equipment that we have in it, we can often have power cuts in the middle of service. And that's just generally because we have fridges, freezers. So please don't ask for a cup of tea because that usually sparks a whole power cut. The kitchen is so small that we cannot safely fit more than 2 people in it. So we have a chef and somebody washing up. We are operating at its capacity. We don't have any storage cupboards in the building. We actually have to close a toilet for cleaning equipment. That's how small the venue has become. Again, we talked about the outside gardens, and again, thank you for your support in that. It really is difficult where you're sitting on the border of Rutland and you've got some beautiful places to go and have a drink or have food.
30 seconds left.
Okay. And in our place, we're sat at the bottom of a car park on dirty old benches. The reason why we need the venue again is because that's a one-person operation. If we try to open the pub at lunchtimes, it takes 3 people with a cumulative wage of £50 an hour. It just isn't viable. Operating out of the takeaway hut, it's a one-person job at £15 an hour. They can serve food and drink all day long, and then people can actually go and sit in a beer garden as it is now.
That is your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions for our speaker? Councillor Graves?
Yes, so I was interested to know if 2 parts are okay and 1 part is not. I'm interested to know that as the officers were sort of making you aware, you know, obviously before today, that there were some issues and problems. How did you go about seeing if you could change things, or is this more of a retrospective? It's done, it's there. I don't really want to change it. Could you just take me through a little bit through the time?
So in terms of the top area, if we actually look at the structure of it, the very left-hand side of it is in essence where we want to hide the bins. So it looks like it's garage doors, but it's not actually garage doors. It's just a roller that would hide the bins. The takeaway hut is what I need to help present or to serve food so that we can actually operate through from breakfast time through till sort of 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon during the summer months. It is currently operational as a temporary solution, as you've alluded to. That's a test and learn from it to see if it actually is viable. That only cost us £2,000. Some of the other options in the report range from £9,000 through to £30,000. Again, and would only serve and solve part of the problem. The area to the right of the storage hut is what we need to have for any general day-to-day storage items. We really need that area to actually take the fridges and the freezers out of the kitchen to be put in there so that we can actually have a kitchen that's viable and big enough to work. At the moment, if you've actually taken or if you've had to go out on a visit, you'll see that we've got some spare tables. They're sat out in the top of the car park under tarpaulin. I have high chairs that are sat outside my cellar because there is just nowhere to store things. No, that's not there at all. And in essence, it's only going to be built on top of the current concrete. It was almost like a wooden structure, I guess, that is then clad in something to make it look. That's where it will run across, yes. So it will almost look like the pub sweeps around where the telegraph pole is. It looks like it will just sweep around a little bit to part of the car park. So, sure.
Is your microphone on?
Sorry, I know quite a bit about 3x3 and 3x4 metre sheds and log cabins because I spent 3 days building one last week, and my wife and I spent weeks and weeks trying to find them. There are some incredibly plain looking ones. There are some really attractive ones. Mm-hmm. And my suggestion would be, and I don't know if this was suggested, but there can be some cost effective, highly attractive ones. And if that is ever an opportunity, it just enhances the whole visual area.
Yeah, again, thank you. It's the nature of the shape of the building because it kind of narrows into a triangle at the top. And so in essence, it would look like a cabin, I suppose. And then, but it just needs to veer into the end of the top of the pub by the gable end, because that's just a lot of wasted space at the moment, usually full of leaves from the tree, you can see.
Okay, thank you. Nicola's got something to say.
I just want to come back to Councillor Grays. If you look at paragraph 4.17, the photo above that shows the existing movable structure. No, the one that's been put there now, temporarily.
Oh, it can be kept there.
No.
No, that would be removed.
Yeah. So they aren't shown in the pictures that are here now because that's only recently just been placed on the site. So that's the one that I think is being referred to by the applicant. That's the movable structure that they've just put on the site. Is that correct?
Yes. So in essence, when following our meeting last year, it was suggested that we use a temporary vehicle, and I know a horse box was recommended and suggested. We've waited a period of time because we've been trying to obviously get this resolved, and we don't want to put ourselves to a mass amount of costs if we can't, sort of retain it. So the temporary structure is what we've just put in place that literally cost us £2,000 to sort of put in place to test it to see whether we would actually even have some appetite.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James has a question for you now.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I just want to try and understand the business a little bit more. I understand there's about 200 houses in the village. I've never counted them, but sort of figure. So you've got a core business there from the community within the village, yeah? And are you looking for this to actually increase that business and with passing trade and things like that.
Yes, they-
And what sort of core business have you got from the village itself? Because I do recognise it's an important community base for the village.
Yeah, can I answer part of that question?
Yeah,
And can
sure.
I ask you to ask that question to my other speaker, Richard, because he's speaking on behalf of the villagers and he would have a real impact or a real answer to that
Richard's
question.
going to talk later, yeah?
Sure, but if I could just touch on it, what we're finding already at the moment is with the test and learn, is that as villagers are going out, they're walking their dogs, they go out for a walk in the morning, they're stopping and buying a sandwich for breakfast or they're having a coffee. Now, what we don't really have at the moment is anywhere for them to really go and sit because the bottom of the car park isn't particularly attractive at the moment. Obviously, being on a hill, the rain runs all the way down and it's just full of silt all day long. And that's what the decking area is designed to then achieve, to raise above all the silt. We drain it out. So what we have found is that we're now picking up some early morning trade for those that are going to work because of the 6047 is a busy road. So we pick up that. The Oakham is a busy road. And so, yes, we are picking up additional business that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bremner has a question.
Yeah, thank you. As a planning committee, we're deciding upon your application in the local plan. So can you answer, if you can, or another speaker? I will read the recommendation. However, the frontage extension carries the cumulative weight of the harm considerably and demonstrably beyond the weight of the public benefit. Therefore, the proposal does not accord with the Harbour Local Plan Policies GD8 and HC1, nor the High Leicestershire Neighbourhood Plan. So in your discussions, how have you tried to address that harm and how have you addressed GD8 and HC1?
Do you mind if I defer that question to Andrew, who is my other speaker, because he's actually the architect that's working on the project?
That's fine. Can I hold that question for the gentleman? Thank you.
You can ask it next to the next speaker. So, okay, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you all.
And if Andrew Vallis would like to come forward, the agent. You've got 3 minutes, Mr. Vallis, and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Start whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm speaking today in support of this application. I'm a chartered architect, but also here as a village resident who understands just how important this pub is to the community. At the outset, we must not lose sight of a key point. This is a temporary application designed to give a struggling village pub a realistic chance of survival while remaining sensitive to its heritage context. This has been a difficult process and we do not feel the officer's report fully reflects that journey. The proposal is driven by necessity, despite the extraordinary commitment shown by Jamie and Claire, who have invested significant time, energy and personal sacrifice. The Rose and Crown is not financially viable in its current form. Without change, it will not survive. The solution is straightforward and proportionate. Diversify income through takeaway food, provide essential storage to resolve ongoing operational issues, and improve the outdoor space so it can be properly used and enjoyed, particularly in the summer months. We have worked constructively with officers. Agreement was reached on the acceptability of the beer garden, subject to removing the temporary structure. The suggested alternative, a mobile takeaway unit, has, in practice, proven impractical. It is costly, vulnerable to theft, and fails to address one of the most pressing issues: the lack of adequate internal and bin storage. This application resolves all of those issues in a coherent and deliverable way. It is also important to acknowledge the planning history. Previous proposals for housing, justified on the basis of preserving viability, did not do so. In contrast, we now have an operator doing everything possible to sustain the business, exactly the kind of situation planning policy is intended to support. The only substantive objection relates to heritage impact, despite support from all other consultees. This places weight on perceived harm to views while underestimating the very real harm that would arise from the pub's closure. A vacant or failing pub would be far more damaging to the conservation area, the listed building and the community than this temporary modest intervention. National policy is clear. Under paragraphs 212 to 215 of the NPPF, any less than substantial harm must be weighed against public benefits. Here, those benefits are significant. Securing the future of a valued community asset, supporting its upkeep, enhancing its usability, and contributing to the vitality of the village. The proposal also aligns with local plan policies HC1 and GD8. It preserves the overall significance of the conservation area, respects its context, and crucially, is temporary and reversible. Any impact is therefore limited and not permanent. We are only asking for 3 years. This is a pragmatic, low-risk opportunity to demonstrate viability and unlock the investment needed for a more permanent,
You have 30 seconds.
policy-compliant solution. A high-quality stone and slate building is the long-term ambition, but it's simply not deliverable without first securing that viability. Finally, this application has had overwhelming support from the community, alongside the backing of councillors Cindy Modder and Simon Galton. This is a balanced, policy-compliant proposal that gives a valued village pub a fighting chance. I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. We already know you've got a question, so Councillor Bremner, if you'd like to ask your question.
We are deciding the application on planning grounds. And I'll read again. However, the frontage extension carries the cumulative weight of the harm considerably and demonstrably beyond the weight of the public benefit. Therefore, the proposal does not accord with the Harbour Local Plan Policies GD8 and 8C1, nor the High Leicestershire Neighbourhood Plan. Would you like to say how you address those elements?
Yes, so initially we came forward with a different proposal, and speaking with the planning officers, it was then revised to try and find something. So on the basis of a conversation we had at the property, they suggested that a more traditional aesthetic would be the way they would like it to go. We were originally going with the sort of SPAD principle of having something which is deliberately different so that it can be read against the listed asset and the two can be sort of seen separately. It was suggested that that wouldn't be the best way to proceed and we should look at having a more traditional structure, which was when it was originally first discussed about having an oak frame, slate roofed, stone type of structure, which obviously just isn't deliverable within the budget which is available at the moment. That's very much the long-term goal, but I'm trying to work with Jamie and Claire to make something which can get them to that point, which is what has made this come about. Now, in relation to, we're talking about the perceived harm on the views of the listed asset, I think a lot of that comes down to personal opinion. It is subjective when you're looking at visual harm, and I myself have gone through the route to becoming a conservation architect and I understand how these things are assessed. Now, in my opinion, a lightweight, low-level structure which sits beneath the line and follows the line of the building will not actually intervene in terms of, as you can see in the image on the screen there, in terms of the actual impact on the view of the listed of the Grade 1 listed church is actually minimal, and there is just nowhere else on the site a building like this could be accommodated. There just isn't another place, and we did look at all other options.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got any questions? No? Oh, Councillor Bannister. Do you want to put your microphone on?
Yeah, the report talks about the extension being a squat, low quality and high out of keeping attachment to the listed building with a conspicuous garage door. Can you just describe the sort of construction material, remind the committee of what that construction material may be so that we can gauge that against the comment about poor quality design that's in this report?
Of course, I think we're confusing poor quality design with simple. This is designed, it's a very agricultural village. I myself live in the village opposite the pub, and it's designed to reflect a cost-effective agricultural sort of outbuilding, a more sort of traditional kind of, I don't want to say shed, but like a timber barn type structure with Duane edge cladding. There is the possibility, and we are saying that we would have a properly tiled roof and it would be a timber frame structure. The idea being that when there is an extension later on down the line, some of those materials can be reused, such as the slates. So that would justify the inclusion of those at the moment. I think it's been deliberately placed where it has for the reason of necessity, but it sits down behind the wall. There's a significant wall to the left-hand side of it, as you can see at the moment, which will mask some of it. And the idea being that it just sits behind that as what would be clearly a very simple, non-permanent structure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James.
Okay, just on the actual construction, I noticed reference in the report quite a lot to PVCU material. And are we using PVCU on decking? And is there was there an issue of levels there, having to bring the levels through?
So the only intention,
raise the floor,
sorry.
basically. Sorry.
The only intention to use a PVC-based material would be a composite decking, like a sort of composite fibre cladding.
Yeah.
And the only reason for that is because it's well known that when you use timber on a floor deck, it has a very significant slip risk. With it being in the location under significant trees, that area already creates quite a lot of slippage in the winter. So we needed to make sure that it was something that could be pressure washed and wouldn't deteriorate. The vertical surfaces and the outbuilding at the end would be in a timber.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Chair, through Chair, can I ask the planning sort of officers here, what does planning have?
No, it's only to the question 6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not the way.
Oh, I thought you got a question for our speaker.
I'm sorry,
we haven't got
I
round
jumped
to
the
that
gun
yet.
there. I do apologise, Chair, sorry.
Okay, if everyone's finished, we'll let Mr. Vallis go and we'll have Mr. Hemsley next.
Thank you.
Mr. Hemsley is speaking on behalf of Tom Woodcock, who registered to speak but can't make it today. So I've allowed Mr. Hemsley to speak instead, or read what Mr. Woodcock would have said. So carry on.
Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Yes, I'm Richard Hemsley, resident of Tilton on the Hill. The commercial need for the approval of the application has been well versed. I'm here to ask for your support in approving the proposed planning changes to our local pub, not simply as a business, but with insight to the essential role it plays in the social fabric of our community. Pubs like ours are often described as the heart of the community, a phrase which can sound a little cliche, but this pub really does have a special role. Of course, it's a place where people come together across generations and backgrounds. It's where friendships are formed, but it's also where local groups meet. And most importantly, it's where people who might otherwise feel isolated and alone or vulnerable find connection. Let me give you a couple of examples. This is an extract from a resident's email. We moved to Tilton on the Hill 2.5 years ago, and at a time I was struggling with some very severe mental health issues, including agoraphobia and anxiety. A visit to the pub was the first time I'd been out for a meal in 4 years. Having made Claire and Jamie aware of my issues, they went to extraordinary lengths to accommodate me and my needs, and to make me feel comfortable. This included making allowances for where we were seated, through to the music volume, being flexible on our bookings, and allowing us to dine at quieter times. I can say with absolute certainty I would not be where I am today without their support and kindness that they've shown over the last couple of years. I'd also turn to January 2025, when flooding was devastating homes and lives. It was the Rose and Crown that proactively opened its doors to the local community through this trauma, offering free accommodation. And then when the snow hit at the beginning of this year, which is common in Tilton, it was again the pub that helped people recover cars, get home, and generally ensured safe passage through the village. In an age where more and more of our lives are lived online, spaces that bring people physically together are becoming increasingly rare and increasingly important. The pub provides that space. It supports mental well-being by offering a safe place to talk, to belong, and to feel part of something local and real. The proposed planning changes are about sustaining the Rose and Crown and the village it is part of. They are about enabling it to adapt to modern expectations, remain financially viable, and continue serving and supporting the community for years to come.
You have 30 seconds left.
Without the ability to evolve, many of the pubs face decline, closure, and are seldom ever replaced. Approving the application is therefore not just a decision about a building or a business. It is a decision about whether we value and protect and the shared spaces that bring our community together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hemsley. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. Thank you for your rendition. Now, I appreciate that pubs are very, very important for the community and for interactions, but there is the balance we have got to take, that we have to look on planning policies, etc. And I come from a very small rural community where on one hand a lot of residents support the local pubs to make the village more sustainable, but on the other hand then I get a lot of complaints about noise and car parking. So my question to you is, what is the situation in relation of car parking? Because the proposal will lose a considerable amount of car parking. So what normally happens is, and there is nothing there that shows a picture of where will cars park, because a lot of cottages haven't got garages and things around there. And I think that's a very important factor to me. And the second one is, whilst the previous speaker was talking, he lives opposite, but there are other houses, and if you're moving a lot of the guests outside in the summer, there will be a lot of noise that is carried, and you could have an awful lot of residents' complaints. So can you just talk me around those two aspects? And thank you very much.
Certainly. So from a car parking perspective, I mean, yes, what is being proposed will absorb a small number of the car parking spaces that are available. The reality is, you know, I live about 3/4 of a kilometre away from the pub. We walk to the pub. Most of the people in the village walk to the pub. So the only time that I have witnessed the car park at capacity is on a Sunday, but there is limitless street parking round and about the pub, down on the main roads, but also on the side roads. And I accept your point that says, you know, there's a lot of heritage buildings around which do not have driveways, but there has never been, in my experience, a parking problem in the village and around the pub. From a noise perspective, again, you know, I've been in and around the village for a small number of years, but I have never been aware. We're on the village social chat group. I've never seen any issue about noise from the pub. No residents complaining about that. And when I've been there, actually, as you get towards 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, the pub itself is quite quiet.
Thank you. Councillor James, have you got a question?
Yes, I do understand what you say about the community being important for the community. If I'd not gone into my local village pub, I probably would never have been a councillor. So I do understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But my question is really, do you have any like community groups or people who are lonely? Are there groups that book space in the pub or operate within the pub as part of a formal community group?
Both formal and informal. Yes. So, for example, the bell ringers from the church, every Thursday after their practice, they go back to the pub as a group and work through that. A number of the local shoots use the pub after their events. Tilton doesn't have a women's institute. It has a ladies group. That ladies group uses the pub. So there's actually many both formal and informal group gatherings at the pub which draw the community together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scott, is the question this time? Okay, if that's all the questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Hemsley. And have the officers got anything to comment on?
I'm just going to come back on one point, a question that was raised by Councillor Mrs. Page regarding highway and the parking impacts. If you look at paragraph 7.11, the Highway Authority has commented and they have assessed that parking situation and they are satisfied that there is sufficient on-street parking if that was required.
Councillor Wellbank, can you switch the microphone off? Thank you. Okay, right. Any more comments from the officers? No, it's open to the committee. Councillor Elliott.
Okay.
Councillor Scott can have a go in a minute.
Okay. We all know, I think, that public houses are going through a very difficult patch at the moment, and I wouldn't like to see another pub boarded up. I mean, there's a plan here how to move forward, and there seems to be a sensible way forward to me, and I've got no objections.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Scott.
It's a question to Nicola. Sorry, I jumped the gun earlier. I do apologise, Chair. In terms of, I'm looking on page 20, it's 4.8 at the bottom. You talk about a proposed temporary three-year nature. That's been described by the owner as a 3-year, and the agent. Yes, yes. And it revolves around the substance and the construction of the actual. Is that set down in detail in planning law that it's £10,000, £15,000? It looks like this, it looks like that. What are the criteria set for a temporary structure as opposed to a?
There's no costings associated with it. It comes down to whether something's that has it agreed.
I'm sorry, it says cost of
permanency. I think what we're getting at here is that in terms of what we consider to be a movable structure, it's literally you can physically move it. That would be temporary rather than physically something that's, you know, permanently affixed to the ground and has full construction inside and out. The associated cost with that.
Okay, so it's just that it said that on page 21, it says construction and costs of building are applicable as well. So you just said it's not down to the.
Well, like I say, I mean, in terms of how you work out the permanency of something is whether it can be physically moved from one place to the other. But clearly, if you have more of if it's not physically movable and it's being fixed to the ground, there is going to be clearly more cost associated with constructing that than there would potentially be a movable structure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Adrian would like to say something.
Yeah, just on the idea of temporary, it's something the officers kind of thought about, but it's not really about. It's really common sense and what's reasonable. If you're going to make something temporary through a planning permission, you do it through a planning condition. You only can put a planning condition on if it's reasonable. And kind of what I agree with what Nicola said in the presentation. It's either acceptable or it's not acceptable. Officers have got a few accounts already actually just expressed a different view, but I think it's one or the other. I don't think it would be reasonable given the amount of work involved to do a temporary consent. I think it's one or the other in this case.
Okay. Councillor James.
Thank you. It's a question to Nicola, really, if Nicola can help with this. Just to look, if we can look at the page 10, which is a picture of the structure and the church in the background, because just trying to focus a bit on the heritage impact. There's a fence or a boundary wall just on the right hand side, yeah? Is that?
Councillor James, is it the picture I've got in front of you?
Yeah, it's page 10.
No, the one on the screen. Is that the one we're looking at?
No. It's an earlier one, I think. That one, that's it.
Yep.
Now we've got a wall or a structure, a fence
here
on the right hand side. Is that a boundary fence for a garden, is it?
This here is no. This is where the unauthorised seating area is. Back to it there.
Did you mean the one on the left?
Yeah, on the right is.
No, the one. Sorry, Nicola. Can you just go back to the other picture?
This one here.
That one, yeah. Yeah, come over here on the right. Did I say left? Right hand side. There's a boundary fence there, isn't there? Something.
There's a boundary fence here to my left.
Sorry. This here.
Yes, that's what I was just pointing out to you, Councillor James. That is the unauthorised seating area.
Right. Okay.
This.
Oh yeah, I was just screening on. I see. Yeah, couldn't quite make it on my. And then just one other question then. So looking at the other side of the church, what's beyond the church? We've got the buildings and then the church. Is it open fields, or are there the buildings behind the church? I'm thinking about what other view you can get from the church.
This is the aerial photograph that I've put on here. You can see the pub that I'm circling here for you. This is what I'm circling here is the unauthorised seating area. This is the unauthorised bin store here. This is the low wall. This is the car parking area, and this is the road, and this is St Peter's Church.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So the photographs that have been taken, for example, can you see where my cursor is being taken now? There's a photo that's been taken from here, looking in this direction, and from this direction, and then obviously one's within the pub car park itself.
Right. Okay.
Photographs that are within the report and that are placed in the presentation.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
happy now?
It's okay.
Councillor Wellband's next, and then. What?
Thought you saw my hand go up earlier. Did you not?
No. Well, you can go next if you want.
Please.
Thank you. I mean, really, I was going to say that I'm relatively happy with this. It's a temporary permission. Is it for 3 years for the side building, bin store, etc.? A nod would be fine. I hear your comments about, well, it's not temporary or permanent. It's what is coming. I think, Adrian, is that what you were saying? It's regardless of temporary or permanent. It's what is proposed.
Yeah, so I mean, I know in the presentation it says there's elements of this that's acceptable, but the recommendation as a whole is a refusal for the collective. But if members had a different view, they could split that different ways. But in terms of temporary consent, as I said, I wouldn't recommend that. I'd say yes or no, really.
So, Chair, if I could continue. I mean, I've read the report. I note the support from the parish council. I note there's one objector, I think, which is mentioned in the report, and I am cognizant of that. But I do hear an awful lot of community voice coming. And on that basis, and the basis of a few other speakers, I'm going to propose this for approval, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wellband.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm happy to second that. And just to say that I was struck by one of the comments. I think it was Mr. Vallis who said I think even more harm would be done by seeing to the conservation area by seeing a closed pub, and I completely agree. I know this pub very well. I know the village very well. It would be a crying shame if it wasn't to be successful. And to be honest, I think a lot of this is just a personal view about whether you think it's a nice looking structure or not. I personally think the materials are being proposed to be used. I don't have a problem with. It's a shame we can't really see a rendering of what it might look like, but it is what it is. And happy to second. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments? Councillor Bannister? Oh, sorry, yes, you're next.
I'm sorry, once again, the online version doesn't have any page numbers, which is a bit frustrating. But it's 1.18. It's a view of a white van, a large tree, looks like a Land Rover, the church, and the pub. From what I can understand, and you could correct me, the view from the church would not see this because it's below building line. So the view from this position to the church will change slightly, but not significantly, because there's already a lot of building in front of the church. It's not going to obscure the vegetation. So the harm does come down to a subjective view in the end, whether you're a conservation officer or not. It's a subjective view. Do officers want to comment on what I've said, or have I been accurate?
Officers have assessed the proposal along with the conservation officer. The conservation officer's comments are very strong in the reasoning that's been given. And officers feel that the structure on the front extension would be harmful to those listed assets. Members can take a different view, but officers' view is that there would be harm to those listed assets. And the Listed Building and Conservation Act is very strong in directing decision makers. And we have gone that we believe that the harm is significant enough to warrant a refusal. But like I say, members can have a different opinion.
Thank you, Nicola. Councillor Bannister, I think you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And it is a balancing exercise, because I do note what the conservation officer does say, and I appreciate that clearly one of the benefits of living in the village in Tilton is that it is a conservation area, and there are strict policies in place to protect that. For the value and protection of the community there. And you balance that as against the clear economic benefit of keeping one of the few amenities in the village going, which has the ability to offer and provide space not just for those that like to eat and drink, but clearly to socialise and to assist in their well-being. So it is that balance to draw upon, and the design could be perhaps better, but I appreciate that the agent has been working with the officers to try and improve it. It is temporary, and there may be less harm than anticipated with regard to the views to St. Peter's Church. I think on balance, it's probably best to approve the application. That's my view, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bannister. Has anyone else got anything to say? We do have a recommendation on the table. Councillor, Councillor Graves recommends approval, and that's seconded by Councillor Wellband. Adrian has some comments.
Yes, if I may, obviously it's good practice if offer some wording to Councillor Graves' motion, which I've picked up from what I've heard, and indeed what's in the report actually. From what I've heard, Councillor Graves has recommended approval on the basis the proposal will not cause significant harm and has good benefits, including replacement lime mortar and multifarious economic, social and community functions to the benefit of the pub and wider area. Planning permission is therefore granted.
Happy with that, Chair.
Thank you. Because this is an approval instead of a refusal, we need to talk about some conditions in the event of it being approved. So Adrian's got some conditions.
Well, I think conditions, there's been some discussion about a 3-year temporary consent, but I wouldn't recommend that because I think I've been through that. Members could add that, but I don't recommend it. I think we would have conditions, if approved, standard commission to commence within 3 years, details of replacement or render, a schedule of the materials. We heard the agent talking about materials, the levels of the outdoor seating area, so we can establish what level the deckings and the wall is at, I believe. The use of the outdoor seating area and serving hut, with the condition to have no live or recorded music there, and to restrict to the hours of the pub. Whatever hours of the pub, there'll be a license and there. So I think there'll be a condition to use the outdoor seating area and the serving hut same time as the pub, with no live or recorded music in that area. And it's because I think there might be variation in the car parking, so an implementation and retention of the car parking and turning facilities. So there are some recommended conditions as well.
Thank you, Adrian. So it's Councillor Bremner.
Yeah, there is on the image of the proposal what I guess is disabled parking, but it just has a disabled symbol. It doesn't give any more detail there. What is that? Is that parking or is that, what is that?
I don't know if we'll know the answer, but the last condition I read out would have a, because the fact that it's a private arrangement, really, they'll be making permission privately. So I can see what you're saying there, but the condition, the last condition I read out would pick up that. So if you wanted to require a disabled space, which appears to be the intention.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Page.
Yes, on the conditions, have you got down the design to be approved by officers? Because I think that is something that needs to be considered, because I'm not unhappy with permitting it, but
I think we heard talk of the design. I think the design is what's proposed, but it's captured as well with materials, which are important. And there's a condition we've read out to control the materials to finalise those.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So we'll move to the vote. hand it over to Democratic Services, Ella, please.
Thank you, Chair. So in accordance with the provisions of the Council's Constitution, we'll now do a recorded vote. So the vote is to be for, against or abstain the approval of this application with the conditions that Adrian has mentioned. So I'll commence the vote now. Councillor Bannister?
For.
Councillor Burrell?
Against.
Councillor Elliott?
For.
Councillor Graves?
For.
Councillor James?
For.
Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Wellband?
For.
Councillor Dr Bremner?
For.
And Councillor Mrs Page? So the vote is 8-1, so that application is voted approved.
Thank you very much. So as Ella said, that application is approved. The next application is on page 40 of your papers, and it's 25/00767/OUT, land at Beebe Road, Scraptoft. Outline application for the erection of up to 200 dwellings. And the presenting officer is Ruth Meadows-Smith. Carry on.
Thank you, Chair. The site here is the site location plan. You can see the red line denoting the site here and the blue line showing land in the applicant's ownership. Here's a Google aerial photo showing the site in its context. The site is here to the north of Scraptoft. This is a Bellway Homes development that's fairly recent, with Mount View Road and Cowslip Lane, for example, along the top. Other development in Scraptoft with the main village core down here and leading down south to the boundaries with Thurmby and Bushby. This is Beebe Road going up here, and this is Keyham Lane East, leading eventually to the village of Keyham, which you can see over the right-hand side of the screen. This land here is a golf course, and beyond that is the boundary with Leicester City. Here's some photographs around the site, moving roughly clockwise around the site. So this is on the land towards the south. This is part of the south boundary here, and this is looking northeast over towards Keyham. You can see the site, at least here, is generally level, and it's starting to slope away here. This is the photograph. I walked a little bit further down the western boundary and I looked south. So this is the edge. This is Cowslip Lane. This is the edge of the Bellway development there. So this is a photo from Keyham Lane East at the north of the site, and this is looking south. So you can just see up here, the mouse is a bit slow. You can just see there's the edge of the Bellway development, and then there's some trees up here screening the rugby club. This land here is not in the application site. This is paddocks and gardens of Hall Farm, I think it's called. And so the site comes down here and includes this land. So this is a bit further down Keyham Lane East. It's actually taken just opposite the entrance to Scraptoft Lodge Farm, where members might remember there was an application for a crematorium. So that would be just off to the right of the picture. So this is the site here with the Bellway Homes development at the top of the hill. These are some photographs now from the applicant's landscape visual impact assessment. There's a natural burial ground sort of to the northeast of the site. You can see on the map that they put in, this is the viewpoint that they've taken here. So this is looking across the site. There's the Bellway Home development, and this would be where the development is coming in down here. So this is taken from some distance away on a right of way, which runs sort of east-west out towards the top of Scraptoft. It's quite elevated ground. And you can see the site here. It's this dotted line, approximate visible extents of site. So it's sort of from here, where you can just about see those houses there, the Bellway, and then down here down the hill, down the hill, down here, and then the crematorium would be off here. Wrong way, sorry. Still the wrong way. Bear with. So this is from another right of way which leads from Keam down to Keam Lane East past the natural burial ground. Again, it's elevated land, and you can see up here, this is where the Bellway homes would be. This is the former farm buildings. There's the site coming down the hill here, down the hill, and then the crematorium would be in here. This is the applicant's concept master plan, which shows one way that the site and the proposal could be laid out. You can see they show access, I've lost the mouse, access here, Spine Road, access roads going through here, Suds, big balancing ponds here for floodwater attenuation and planting along the boundaries. Just to remind members, obviously, the applicants are not asking us to consider layout in detail. This is just an indicative plan saying this is how we could fit the dwellings on the site. This plan is not in the recommended permitted plans condition because layout is to be reserved for a future date. No, wrong way, sorry. I'm not very good with this mouse. Getting there, getting there. This is a helpful viewpoint. This is from that natural burial ground, but now the applicants have shown that this is what planting would look like, screening the development 25 years after its completion. So this is the view, looking that same view as we saw a moment ago, looking up the hill towards the Bellway homes at the top, but with the planting in front. This is the proposed access plan. Access is to be considered as part of the application. You'll see that the existing access, which is down here somewhere, is blocked up and a new access put in here with footways and verges. And as the next plan shows, sorry, I'm still going the wrong way. Oh. Sorry. Maybe use the other one. Sorry, Nicola. Nearly there. That's it. Also, part of the proposal is to extend a footway down BB Road. So this is the Bellway Homes development, which has a footpath along within it. This proposal includes extending a footpath down the side of BB Road to link up with existing footpaths down here. Members will note on the supplementary information that there's 2 amended conditions, and they'll also see the correspondence from the police, including representation sent directly to the chair, which has been on the website as well. As set out, this does not change the officer's recommendation, which is for approval, subject to a Section 106 legal agreement and the conditions in the report as amended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now we've got 2 speakers on this application. The first is Mark Sitch, who's the agent. Would you like to come forward, sir? If you'd like to switch on your microphone.
Thank you.
You've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Start whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. I'm speaking for Bloor Homes in support of this outline planning application, where access is a detailed matter for consideration. The matters of appearance, landscaping, layout and scale are reserved for future approval. Bloor Homes are a Midlands-based house builder who wish to deliver quality new homes, including affordable, on this site. We agree with the officer's recommendation to approve for the reasons set out, subject to planning conditions and the Section 106. In particular, the planning application follows pre-application engagement with your officers, LCC Highways and Education, and local consultation, including a public exhibition. We've continued to engage with officers and their input is reflected in the application before you. There are no objections from the following statutory consultees, subject to planning conditions in section 106, which are set out in the report. And these include LCC Highways and Education, the Environment Agency, Lead Local Flood Authority, the site is wholly within Flood Zone 1, the NHS, Ecology Officer, Strategic Housing and Enabling Manager. We are compliant in terms of affordable housing at 40%. The council consider the site to be suitable for housing. The site benefits from a draft housing allocation in the emerging Harborough District Local Plan. The boundary for the planning application is the same as that allocation. The allocation is for a minimum of 175 homes, and based on the technical work and Bloor Homes consultant team have carried out, we consider the site has a capacity for 200 homes with appropriate planting. This will provide a further 25 homes to contribute to the council's 5-year land supply, where we know there is a shortfall of deliverable housing supply, and also a further 10 affordable homes for the borough. The extraordinary council meeting on the 16th of March agreed the officer's recommendation to submit the local plan. This endorses the local plan as a material consideration to be used in determination of planning applications. Bloor Homes have considerable experience of delivering homes on similar sites to this. We've carefully looked at the location for the access, the position of the new homes, landscape and drainage, including attenuation basin. We've looked at the site levels and boundary planting. We agree with the officer's paragraph 6.44 in their report, and also planning condition 15, landscape scheme. Bloor Homes have agreed to a package of works and infrastructure contributions, which includes education and doctors' surgeries. These works include the provision of a new pedestrian footway on BB Road. The agreed draft section 106 will deliver these works and contributions in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Scott?
Yes, question for Mark. In terms of, you said it was in flood zone 1, but I'm looking at the appendix A we have here, where you have conditions 6 and 7, which are the surface water drainage scheme and the surface water drainage management. In the surface water drainage management section 7, it says that the maintenance regime, it may be monitored over time that will ensure the long-term performance of the flood risk. How would you maintain that that particular monitoring?
Thank you, Councillor. In respect to those two conditions, they've been agreed, obviously with the officer, but also ultimately with the Environment Agency and the local lead flood authority. So we need to submit details pursuant to those conditions, as you rightly say, 6 and 7. Part of those details will require, obviously, for those to be approved, but also subsequent ongoing maintenance of those agreed details. So that will allow for the ongoing maintenance.
So, Chair, from a subsequent question to that as well, in terms of the conditions and maintenance of the reduction of the flood, the surface water drainage schemes, how would you work? How I did ask, how would you maintain these? Would you have 6 monthly maintenance? Do you use a third party, or would you yourselves be monitoring the SUDS basins and the drainage management?
I think there's a number of options, Councillor, and you've probably listed all of them in the sense that we've got the proposed attenuation basin, which has been obviously considered at this stage in terms of its position and scale, and that manages the surface water and obviously flow off-site, and that's clearly fundamentally what we need to do. In terms of the management of that drainage system, and particularly the attenuation basin, that's likely to be through a management company, but that's not to say that it couldn't ultimately be maintained through community sum to the parish council or otherwise, but it's likely to be part of the wider open space provision and maintenance of the site as a whole. So it would be something that would be considered, as I say, through the discharge of the condition with officers. But it's important that we recognise, yes, it's agree the details, yes, it's implementing those approved details and ensuring that they're put in place and maintained as agreed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Can you, is your microphone on? That's
It is
it.
now, yeah. With regard to secondary school education, at the moment, the students travel by bus to the secondary schools in Oadby, and these schools, I'm told, are full. So could you tell me where the secondary students from the development will be going, please?
Councillor Elliott, yes. The final details would ultimately be agreed at the point that the development is implemented and ultimately occupied through the 106, which we've agreed the measures with LCC education team. That will be ultimately agreed with them at that point as part of pursuant to the discharge of the 106. So I don't have the school places right now, in the sense that obviously we would hopefully secure permission, would implement that permission, and then ultimately the school places and the capacity of those schools at that particular moment in time as those pupils are generated would be known. But there is provision within the 106 package clearly for secondary school provision.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else got a question? No? Ruth will say something about the education.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to say that if you see the table of contributions, that's about paragraph 4.2 in the report. A few pages in, you'll see that the local education authority have requested section 106 money, and that's to go to secondary SEND education, which is special educational needs provision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Oh, Councillor Bremner.
Yeah, I was looking at the plan on, I think it's page 4, where your development is outlined. One interesting thing I see, which is a positive, is that on a guesstimate, about a fifth of the area is either green space or the flood suds, I think. What do you plan for that green space that's in the plan? It's the bright green spot at the sort of, no, in the plan, on the left of the plan, just above the buildings that are in grey.
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor Bremner. We've got a combination, as you rightly say, in terms of drainage provision through attenuation basins and suds. And you see that there's a provision towards BB Road in relation to that as well. And then we have obviously your public open space standards. So we've got a large amenity areas, open spaces, walking routes, and then beyond that, particularly on the boundaries, but also within the site itself, but particularly on the boundaries, we've then got the green space and the additional retention of existing planting and new planting trees. So it's a combination of amenity, open space, and the attenuation areas. And we've obviously had regard at this stage, the outline stage, to your planning policies.
Can I ask a further question, Chair?
As long as it's quick.
Will you be planning play equipment for children of multiple ages, from young to sort of early teens to late teens? Because if you build that, you're going to have a diversity of families, depending on the number of rooms that you develop for each property. You're going to have young children in there. So how are you making provision for them in that?
Excuse me, Councillor, I'm just trying to find the so I think there's two elements to it. One is the existing provision within Scraptoff, and the opportunity to be part of the community, to obviously use those existing facilities in terms of play space and open space. In terms of the on-site provision, there's a helpful table at the back of the report. I think it's 5 pages in, Councillor, which identifies there the request from your open space officer And there we have contributions to parks and gardens, outdoor sports, allotments, common community gardens, greenways, cemeteries and burial grounds. And then you can see further down the column, on the left-hand side, all other contributions on site, amenity green space, natural and semi-natural green space, children's and young people's provision. So and with commuted sums payable in terms of ongoing maintenance. So those details are provided for at this stage of an outline stage and through the 106. In terms of the actual detail, that will be part of the reserve matters submission details that we submit to the council for consideration alongside the layout, appearance, landscaping, etc. So it's dealt with as a whole at that point. But the provision is there from day one in terms of the 106.
Okay, thank you very much. No more questions. Councillor James, quick.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps a question that more appropriate to the officers, but I would be interested in your view. There's quite a substantial sum there, almost 200,000 going to the NHS. It's not clear what might happen there at the moment. We talk about additional clinical accommodation, maybe, or we talk about maybe a new facility. So there's more work to be done on that. But can I just clarify? My base question is this capital funding, I presume, and therefore it doesn't fund additional doctors. I don't know whether it funds equipment. Would you say, is it capital funding in the main for physical buildings?
The way that I'm going to say NHS or ICB are effectively set up is that you engage with them as part of a planning application, pre-application stage, or during the determination process. It has the potential to deliver extra spaces, and clearly there's merit in that. But there's also, and that can be through with existing doctors' surgeries or as extensions. It's difficult to confirm what that might be at this stage. The ICB obviously have an indication of considerations to what they'd like it to be spent on. So hence the provision within the 106. But I can't give you an absolute guarantee. It may be one that, as you say, for the officers. But
okay, that's
helpful. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's the end of the questioning for you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Councillor Galton, who's the ward member. You've got 5 minutes, Councillor Galton. I think you know the routine, so carry on when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. And listen to your questions on the last speaker with interest. So, firstly, I'd like to say how good I thought the report was. It gave all the information that was required and spent a couple of hours with that, going through to understand the proposal and what is in front of you tonight. And I recognise reading the report that actually the site, it is accepted that the development would cause harm. But of course, without the 5-year supply, that the tilted balance kicks in. But I note that notwithstanding the situation with the draft local plan, if it wasn't for the 5-year supply, I mean, it does say it's finely balanced. The harm is going to be caused. Nevertheless, we don't have a 5-year supply, so I'm going to confine my comments to ways which I hope the committee would consider making sure that the development is as sustainable as possible and provides facilities, some of which you've raised. So the site is quite remote from the village, and this is the problem that as more and more development takes place, you're getting further away. In fact, it would be, I estimate, from the far corner of the site, at least a 10 or 12 minute walk to get to facilities in the village. Yes, there will be a footpath now, but no proper bus service. That's accepted that won't happen. Instead, there's going to be this Fox Connect and contributions to that. Not clear where you'll be able to go on that, but it certainly is not the same as a regular bus service. The second concern is in relation to the extent to which built development. There are 2 parcels, the northern parcel going towards Keam and the natural burial ground. It's good that the developer's proposing to put the SUDs in there. and not have that, but there's still concern about the amount of built development in that northern parcel. And how that will fit in. And developers themselves suggest that an early major tree planting scheme could help, although I note it was said earlier it could take 25 years to take effect. But notwithstanding that, there is concern about the development in the northern parcel. I know, Chair, you'll remember that in the past, in Bushby, we actually did ask for height restrictions to be put on development where it was quite a sensitive area, and perhaps the officers would comment on that, whether it would be appropriate to consider height restrictions. But also, if we're serious about bringing this significant belt of tree planting in, yes, there's a landscaping condition, but would it actually be possible to refer specifically to the need for this structural tree planting scheme to come forward at an early stage, and be clear about that in the conditions? I'm mentioning some of this because a lot of these applications now are coming forward in outline. We may not be here by the time they come to reserve matters for implementation. We may be abolished, and it may be another council that has to deal with that. So clarity and being clear is important. So moving on to the S106 contributions, I note that BNG is proposed off-site, but it does say in the report, one of the consultees responds say there may be scope for some BNG on-site as well. So if there's some clarity around that, that will be helpful. The more BNG on-site, the better, in my opinion. Just putting it off-site doesn't really cut, but I understand that's possible. The lead local flood authority, the policies that we're bringing forward in the new plan actually require betterment. Now, the authority says it will meet all our new policies coming forward, but could I see a clarification on that, that we will be looking to achieve betterment on this site? And that goes back really to what Councillor Scott was asking about on the drainage. There's no specific mention of the design code. Is that possible at this stage to ask for a design code for the site? Police contributions. I'll leave that to the officers as why they've concluded that's not acceptable. I just wondered if that's going to be the norm now, that we're not going to feel able to accede to these police contributions. Is this specific to this? Final point really is about off-site sport and recreation. Mark Passerson will remember that on the other site in Bushby some years ago, they're proposing to do it off-site. They're proposing to give the money. I hope Councillor Elliott will pick this up in the discussion. We don't have any land in Scraptoft to buy. Well, nobody will sell any land. So just giving us money doesn't help. What we need is a site. The applicant controls land outside the site to the north. This is what we did in Bushby. We got them to provide a piece of land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Has anyone got any questions? No, thank you. I'll ask the officers to comment on some of those remarks. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Golson, for your comments about the report. I shall try to answer your questions. Yes, there is no regular bus service, and I don't think the proposal will achieve that, but it will achieve the connect bus service around the site, which my understanding will extend further and link parts of Scraptoft into the city that currently don't have that link. That is my understanding. The landscaping impact, I agree with you about the concern with the heights of development in the northern parcel. So appearance and scale is a reserve matter, and therefore there is opportunity for officers and the committee to control that at a later date. We know that bungalows could be suitable there, and if members felt inclined, there could be a condition which restricted height. The application was submitted with parameters plans showing where and density plans showing where the taller dwellings would be and where the more dense development would be, and that was to the south of the site, but not exclusively to the south of the site. So that's why those plans are not included in the list of permitted plans, because there was some concern from officers about that. If members felt that there was a need for an additional condition to do with height, then that could be provided. But obviously, scale and appearance are still to be considered at a later date. Regarding the structural planting, condition 17 is specific and bespoke to boundary planting, boundary landscaping. The layout and landscaping reserve matters required by condition 2 shall include full details of boundary planting or landscape mitigation on the east boundary of the site. So there is a particular bespoke condition for that, and that gives officers the chance to approve planting plans, written specifications, the age, type, density of a species going in at the reserve matter stage, rather than leaving that to subsequent stage. Regarding biodiversity net gain, BNG, the application will be subject to the mandatory government condition, which requires details of that to be submitted pre-commencement and post-determination. So at this stage, we couldn't really tie down a developer, and it would be wrong for us to tie down a developer to say now exactly where their BNG is going to be, because it has to come by condition. That's the way the government want it. But there would be provision, I'm sure, within this to get some, if not all, the BNG on site, hopefully. The LLFA, there is a betterment to the flooding. And that is, let me see. There is, let's see. Yes, so paragraph 6.71 of the report talks about surface water drainage. And it says that stored water in the SUDs will drain from the basins at below Greenfield rate. So there's a betterment there, and I think the LLFA have included the emerging local plan policies in their response. So I've written this lower rate takes into account policies in the emerging local plan, so that there is a betterment there built into the design of the SUDs. Regarding a design code for the site, yes, that would potentially be a emerging local plan requirement, but it isn't a requirement for under the current local plan. So officers didn't feel that a condition requiring that at this stage was necessary and would meet the tests. Again, members would be free to take a different view. Regarding the police contributions, we have looked at this in depth. It's not a blanket no to all proposals. It is everyone on their own merits. The council's carrying out work in conjunction with other councils in the district to try and have a common view about this. In this particular instance, it was felt that the request didn't meet the SIL tests. They're not necessary to make the development acceptable in planning terms. I note your points about off-site sport and recreation. Again, that would probably be a matter for the 106. But yes, there is an opportunity there for a developer to make contribution as in land, and that could maybe come through in later applications. I hope that answers the questions.
Thank you, Ruth. I think that does answer the questions. Any more comments from the officers? If not, we'll open it up to the committee. Councillor Graves?
Just on that point, because it was just mentioned about, and what Councillor Galton said about the off-site recreation, there is no site. Could I ask officers, please, what the normal number of years might be, or whether it can be open-ended? Because with many of these amounts of money, with many of these types of projects, it's difficult enough to sometimes get them going in 10 or 15 years' time. And I'm really uncomfortable with officers putting together a Section 106 sort of Hail Mary, where there's no land, there's no plan, and the clock starts ticking down. So could I just ask for your feedback whether there can be an exceptionally long amount of time, something that can help the community, please?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is effectively the spend by period for the sum. So that is a clause within the 106, which is for negotiation between ourselves and the applicants. Normally, The sort of standard spend by period is 5 years. But we have in some circumstances where we've considered it necessary, we've negotiated a longer period than that. But that really is something that we would have to negotiate through the 106 process.
Chair, if I may, that
Yep.
doesn't convince me. I hear everything you've said, but it doesn't come across as convincing.
That's unfortunately, that is as much certainty as I can give you, because we don't have anything in policy to say that we have to have X years as a spend by date. And so it is really is something that comes down to that negotiation point.
Thank you. Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Chair. On page 48, we have requested by HDC amount and detail. And what I asked about previously was children's and young people's provision play area. So we have a sum, which many young people might be interested in, and older people, outdoor sports, 428,000 rounded up. But then at the bottom of that, it says other contributions on site, amenity, green space, natural and semi-natural green space, children, young people's provision with commuted sums payable if applicable for ongoing maintenance. But there's no sum associated with that, like everything else above. So my question to officers is, why is there no sum associated with that?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bremner.
Well, on the PDF, I thought it's very complicated. I don't know if that's the page already.
Yeah, I don't think it is the same page number. Which paper page has all the sums on the amounts of money?
I think if I could just.
Thank you, Councillor Bremner. Mark's going to answer your
So
question.
there's two sections.
Mark's going to answer your question.
There's two sections in which these comments are set out. You have the first section, which is the consultation response table, which is in section 5 of the report, I think it is, which sets out the areas which are required. If you then look at Appendix B, which sets out the actual sums which are required for the facilities. So you've got outdoor sports at 427,000, allotments and communities at 9,600, etc.
Page 87 then.
Yeah.
Okay, you're happy about that?
I'll just explain. Yeah.
Doesn't answer the question about the other contributions on site, amenity, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But there's no sum associated with that, like the
No.
items above.
That is because it's on site. So if it's off site, then the developer isn't providing it themselves. They have to pay money for those things off site. If it's on site, then they're providing that land for the thing themselves.
But as a planning authority, how are we conditioning what's on site? Because you've had lots of other plans, lots of other developments that have gone through planning, they're all built out. You know what kind of things people want on site. So how are you making that decision?
It'll be in the reserved matters plans.
So if I may then, I mean, there's conditions of ultimately if approved on landscaping for both maintenance. That's kind of condition 13 and 15, and then the section 106 if approved will start to build on that. And I appreciate your query about specific figures for maintenance, for example, but ultimately no one can give that today. It depends on the detail of what comes forward and how it comes forward. And then there's a negotiation whether it be offered to adoption to the council or the parish council, and the calculation would have to be reasonably done at that time. To do it now wouldn't be really practical.
Okay, Councillor Scott. Oh, David Atkinson would like a word.
It was just a point on Councillor Graves's query about the 106. We've heard that also there could be a negotiation around with the developer about land, because I think the issue is that there's no land. So your question was, I think we can get as many contributions as we like almost, but there's nowhere to spend them, whether it be 5, 10 or, so we heard earlier on that there may be land that I can't get into negotiation now, but it might be a positive thing if there was a potential for officers to negotiate with the developer, see if there was some land for community amenity. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Questions in relation to the S106 contributions. In terms of the negotiations that happened between HDC and the applicant and the request by LCC, this is regarding the travel packs and the 6-month bus passes. It's been noted before that there is a very, very low uptake of bus passes in nearly all of the developments. And what will happen here is, it appears to me, is that 400,000 plus will just go and sit in LCC's coffers for some considerable time. Don't we ever take that into consideration in terms of planning a better bus service for these for these outlying developments? I know in particular of my experience in Glen, there wasn't a good take up of this service. I just wonder if we could be a bit stronger on this 106 and LCC.
Effectively, the Section 106 agreement is a trilateral agreement. So it's between ourselves, the applicants and landowners, and the county council. So we negotiate as officers the HDC elements, county council negotiate their elements. And so we don't really have any input into that. I do completely see where you're coming from, because we see it all the time.
We had no final say in the planning. So that this is our planning document we're looking at, but we have no final say in the actual S106.
We have no, as I said, it's a 3-way agreement. So all 3 parties have a combined agreement to it. So we can negotiate our elements of it. The county council negotiate their elements of it. And that's how Section 106 agreements work.
And it's stuck together.
Yes, it's a 3-way agreement between the 3 parties.
Don't think that's very effective, does it?
Thank you. Councillor Elliott. Oh, sorry, David Atkinson.
I was just going to say, sorry, Councillor Borrell. I was just going to say, Councillor Scott, it's the issue we faced before, that it's the highway authority. They're the statutory highway authority. So at the moment, under the 2-tier system, which Councillor Gauntlet's already mentioned was about to be abolished, they are the highway authority until 2028, and then there'll be a system of unitary authorities, and then everything will be under one authority for these things. But at the moment, they're different organisations.
Then they'll get their own way completely. Then, so
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Elliott.
Okay. Yes, I've got a few concerns here, which I've made a few notes. And firstly, I'm concerned that at the moment there is no development in this valley. If we pass this application, we are setting a precedent in the area. We shall go over from Scraptoft down into the next valley. I also think we should be concerned that if the development were to be built, it would be over a mile from the far end of the development to the nearest services and bus stop in Scraptoft, which contradicts local plan H4. And the bus, I understand, that will go there is the Fox Connect, which doesn't go directly to Leicester. It'll go around all the villages, so you couldn't possibly catch it to go to work. So virtually there's no bus service. The doctor's surgery, all the ones in Scraptoft are full. I've recently tried to get an appointment 3 times at the Willowbrook surgery and been told each time there is no appointments available. I'm told that it's the same at the other surgeries within the area. I know there are other pending planning applications for the Scraptoft area, and I also know that the provision of a surgery is in the hands of the NHS. But we can't keep passing planning applications while there is no doctor's surgery that can cope with the additional influx of people to the area. And you're on about the tree line between Bellways and this new well, the Bellways said exactly the same. They would put a screen up and all that, and they've put about 6 trees up, and they've never moved since they were there because it's thick clay. So I just hope there's some different going on this next time. I think that's all I can say for the moment.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments? Do you want to put your microphone off, Councillor Elliott? Thank you. Anyone else? That's Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chair. I hear the concerns of Councillor Elliott, and we have been there many times. Doctor surgery, bus services, as he says, are no valid planning applications. We haven't got planning reasons for refusals. We haven't got a 5-year housing supply. We do need the amount of housing to go to our allocation, and I'm stumped at what reasons there could possibly be for refusal. So I'd like to take this opportunity to move the recommendation, the officer's recommendation to approve as set out on page 40.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bannister.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I sympathise with those matters raised by Councillor Elliott. They're common to us all on this committee when we are considering the larger scale planning applications, but we are caught by paragraph 11D of the National Planning Policy Framework, the so-called tilted balance, having regard to our lack of a 5-year housing supply. Also having regard to paragraph 7.3 in this report, there are a host of policies that the proposal is considered to comply with. So I would like to formally second the application to our proposal.
Thank you very much. Anyone got any more comments? If not, I'll go to the vote. So it's been proposed by Councillor Mrs. Page and seconded by Councillor Bannister that we approve this application in line with the officer's recommendation. I'll hand it over to Democratic Services to do their magic.
Thank you, Chair. Again, in accordance with the provisions of the Council's Constitution, we're going to carry out a recorded vote. So this is to vote for or against or abstain the approval of the application. So Councillor Bannister?
For.
Councillor Burrell?
For.
Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Graves?
For.
Councillor James?
For.
Councillor Scott?
Against.
Councillor Wellbrand?
For.
Councillor Dr. Bremner?
For.
Councillor Mrs. Page?
For.
So that is 7 for and 2 against. So the application's approved.
Thank you very much. So that application is approved. Thank you, everybody. The next application is on page 92 of your papers. It's 25/01492/OUT, land at Leicester Lane, Great Bowden. Outline planning application for 52 dwellings. And Nicola Parry is going to present this to us. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you. So the application site that you can see before you on the aerial photograph is located to the north of Leicester Lane on the western edge of Great Bowden and comprises a 2.7 hectare rectangular shaped area of agricultural land, which comprises part of a larger field parcel. The eastern boundary of the site is defined by existing residential development on Frank Burdett Drive and Isaac Martin Lane. And there's also agricultural land to the north and west and to the south on the opposite side of Leicester Lane. There is an existing point of access, variegated field access to the west, which I'm just pointing out to you here now. This access also forms part of a public right-of-way that runs up here north to south and then connects into the wider public right-of-way network. Topographically, the site slopes gently northwards from a height of 100 metres above Ordnance Datum at the southern end of the site, adjacent to Leicester Lane, to a low of 94 at the northern site boundary. As you can see from the photograph before you, the western and southern boundaries are marked by well-established hedgerows comprising a mix of native hedgerow species and mature trees. So now some photographs that have been taken from the site. So started in the top left-hand corner, we've got a picture showing you from the southeastern corner of the site looking north. So this is the public footpath that I was just referring to down here. Then we go to the from the eastern boundary of the site, this is looking west in the direction of the Grand Union Canal, which is a conservation area. We then have from the northeastern corner of the site looking west. And then we've got from the site southwestern corner looking east, and again, that's to the existing development I was just referring to you to. And some further photos. So this is out now walking in the actual site itself. So we're now going up the site, looking back towards Leicester Lane. So this is the view southwest across the site from the northeastern corner. And then the next photo along is directly behind me is the hedgerow trees on Leicester Lane. So this is from the southern boundary looking up north to the site. And then we've got a view northeast of the western end of the site. So in terms of designations, I've just mentioned obviously the Grand Union Canal, which is the conservation area here. The conservation area also includes Great Bowden Hall, which is a Grade 2 listed building. This area here is the conservation area of Great Bowden itself. There are also some non-designated heritage assets, the closest ones being here that I'm just circling to you. And you can just make out, obviously, the green dotted hash. You can see the public footpath and that I was just referring to and the wider network that it connects into. And then just up here is the Great Bowden Borough Pit, which is an SSSI. And then the other designation I wanted to make you aware of was this is one taken from the Great Bowden neighbourhood plan. This area here is been designated as an important open land and it relates to the verge to the south of the site. So to see this verge in more detail, I've taken an aerial shot. You can see the planted horse chestnuts all the way along this lane. And looking at the history of this, they were planted by the Great Bowden Society in approximately 1970. And as you can see, they run from approximately the canal bridge up here, just before Walnut Drive, which is down here, which used to be the former sawmill timber yard. And then some street view photos of these trees, you can get an appreciation of what they look like. So this is obviously as you're entering Great Bowden from the canal bridge. The site you see is obviously on the left-hand side, and you can see the green verge with the horse chestnuts on both sides. The reason this side is not designated is because it falls outside the parish boundary, but for all intents and purposes, the verges are the same in terms of wide grass verges and horse chestnut trees that have been planted. And then the bottom one shows you as you're going out of the village, so you can just see the national speed limit sign just there. So in terms of development framework, this has been put together, and like I say, it's an indicative development framework because all matters are reserved except the means of access. The supporting documentation that's been submitted shows that, like I say, there'll be up to 52 dwellings. 31 of those will be for open market sale, 21, so 41% will be for affordable housing. There'll be a broad range mix of house types. Density of the blocks proposed is 30 dwellings per hectare. The majority of dwellings will be 2-storey in height, although the information does suggest some limited use of 2.5-storey dwellings in selected locations. But like I say, mindful that this is only indicative layout. It also shows obviously landscaping on the boundaries, particularly to the north and to the west here as well. And what's also helpful with this framework before you, it also shows the amount of landscaping that's proposed. It's roughly 36% of the overall site area. And obviously there's also proposing an attenuation basin just here and a play area in this corner here. But like I say, just be mindful it is indicative, but it's an idea of how it could come about. So in terms of the actual access itself, this is the access drawing before you. So it proposes a new priority junction access fronting Leicester Lane. You can see it's got the 2-metre wide footpath, which will link, it's going to come out of the access and it will follow all the way down here, and it will link into the existing footpath on this side of the road. That footpath obviously doesn't carry along this way because obviously the main village amenities are to the east and not to the west. You'll see from the paperwork before you that concerns have been expressed by the local community that the proposed access will result in the felling and or damage to the horse chestnut trees. But as you'll see from the photograph before you, the access is going to go where that very small recently planted tree has been planted. So the horse chestnut this side and this side will not be affected. This is where the access is proposed to be. You also see that there's a condition suggested within the paperwork which requires that the development is carried out in strict accordance with the arboricultural report, because that recommends, amongst other things, that it needs to be supervised by an arboriculturalist while that work is undertaken, not only on the access but on the footpath construction, to ensure that the roots, the root material of the horse chestnut trees are not affected. Concern has also been expressed with regards to the volume and speed of existing traffic and that the proposal will exacerbate this problem. However, the local highway authority has advised that the access is safe and suitable. You will note from the supplementary paper that the local community has requested a condition if members are minded to approve the application. The local highway authority reviewed the suggested condition and advised it would unlikely pass the necessity tests, and officers agree with that. Suggestion from the local highway authority, but they have suggested an alternative wording if members wanted to go with the suggestion that's been put forward by the local community. So, in terms of the principle of the development, officers have assessed the application against Harborough Local Plan and consider it satisfies policy GD2. The proposal would, however, conflict with policy H1 of the Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan, as this proposed Wimble development is outside the settlement boundary. However, it needs to be noted that the neighbourhood plan is out of date, 8 years old, and therefore only very limited weight can be attached to the conflict in the planning balance. As members are aware, as we've heard from the previous discussion, the council cannot demonstrate a 5-year land supply, and therefore paragraph 11D of the NPPF is therefore engaged. Paragraph 14 of the framework is not engaged as the Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan is more than 5 years old and it does not contain any housing allocations. Officers have also considered the policies within the emerging new local plan and the Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan review. However, in accordance with paragraph 49 of the framework, only limited weight should be given to these policies as there are still unresolved objections which need to be tested at examination. Officers have identified moderate adverse landscape harm, but consider this harm could be mitigated through a comprehensive and substantial structural landscaping scheme, particularly along the western and northern boundaries of the site, and by designing a housing estate that is sensitively designed in terms of layout, scale and appearance, including heights and materials, to minimise the landscape impact of the development in the long term. Officers have identified a lower level of less than substantial harm to the Grand Union Canal Conservation Area in terms of how it is experienced in its setting and to the special interest and heritage significance of the Grade 2 listed Great Bowden Hall, which officers place considerable importance and weight. As set out at paragraph 215 of the framework, where there is less than substantial harm to designated heritage assets, this harm should be weighed against the public benefits of the proposal. With regard to the public benefits, these are significant, particularly in terms of housing supply. These benefits are judged to outweigh the lower level than less than substantial harm identified, and therefore officers have concluded that planning permission should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. We've got 4 speakers on this application. The first speaker is Mr. Peter Mitchell. If you'd like to come forward, please. You'd like to switch on the microphone and you'll have 3 minutes and get a 30-second warning. Start when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. I would like to make 2 comments. The first relates to the fact that this proposed development would enhance the possibility of Great Bowden coalescing with Market Harborough, as the draft local plan includes the building of 850 houses which would border the canal to the west of Great Bowden. This would contravene policy GD6 in the local plan, which requires development to avoid coalescence and preserve the separate identity of Great Bowden and Market Harborough. An extension of the existing area of separation west to the canal and north of Leicester Lane would serve to prevent any erosion of the remaining gap in this area. This is contained in the Harborough District Council report entitled Areas of Separation, published in November 2024. The findings support the inclusion in the reviewed Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan of the new area of separation to the north of Leicester Lane. This proposed new separation land is a logical and reasonable extension to the existing areas of separation in the neighbourhood plan. It will add to and enhance the strategic designation in the draft local plan that continues the strict policy of protecting the identity and character of Great Bowden. Great Bowden's reviewed neighbourhood plan has now entered the independent examination stage, and so I should consider it should be given some weight. Although Harbour District Council officers consider the number of dwellings proposed in this application represents a modest and proportionate amount of additional development for the village, it's the cumulative number of houses that have been built in Great Bowden over recent years that should be considered. Between 2011 and 2020, over 230 dwellings have been built, increasing the number of houses from 449 to 679, which is a 51% increase. The proposed draft local plan contains the policy that a further 100 houses will be built in Great Bowden. Building a further 52 houses on Leicester Lane would represent an 85% increase in the size of Great Bowden in 15 years. The residents of Great Bowden accept that their village has to take an allocation of the district's housing need along with the 4 other medium villages, which are also each expected to take an extra 100 houses. There is absolutely no way that a further 52 houses should be imposed on the community relating to this speculative development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bob Hooper, who's from the Parish Council, I believe.
Yes.
You've got 3 minutes. If you start when you're ready, and you'll be given a 30-second warning.
Okay. Great Bowden Parish Council object to the proposal on the grounds that it's in conflict with the neighbourhood plan policy, specifically policy H1 housing provision, which currently states it's limited to existing commitments within the settlement boundary. It also says housing developments will be brought forward in a neighbourhood plan review where a need is identified. The plan is under review and does exactly that. It has identified a site for 8 bungalows within the settlement boundary. And as we've heard, it is in the final stages of its democratic process. Policy H2 refers to settlement boundary. This proposal is effectively development in the open countryside, which is not supported. A previous application for 46 houses was refused on exactly these grounds. Nothing has changed. Neighbourhood plan policies were considered then, and they should equally apply now. Policy H3 concerns windfall sites. This is not a windfall site as it fails on the first proviso in that it's outside of the settlement boundary. Move on to the developer's planning statement. Paragraph 5.37. It says, in the light of the stage reached in the preparation of the neighbourhood plan review, it may be afforded little or no weight in the determination of this application. We feel this is an insult to the volunteers who are following a democratic, legitimate process of reviewing the existing neighbourhood plan. Has everybody been wasting their time? Paragraph 6.4, the second point, the statement says no provision made in the current neighbourhood plan. Well, in the review, we've already heard that 8 bungalows have been proposed based on needs identified by a housing study for the neighbourhood plan. Paragraph 6.8 states that no housing allocation in the existing plan. That is true, but despite that, a large amount of development has already taken place, as we've heard. Paragraph 6.22 states that 52 houses is only 8% of the total of the houses in Market Harborough. Well, it is only 8% because of all the other large developments that have taken place. So in our opinion, 52 cannot be considered a modest development. Paragraph 6.29 and 6.3, we disagree with the arguments there. Major housing has been identified on the other side of the canal, as we've heard, so this would effectively be emerging into Great Bowden as it's only 260 metres away. The emerging local plan already identifies 100 houses for Great Bowden in other areas, so we feel there isn't a need for extra 52 houses here. So if you agree that democratically reviewed neighbourhood plans are important, both here and in your own areas, we respectfully ask that the application is refused.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carolyn Ford. You've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Start whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening.
Firstly, I'm totally opposed to this development and I fully endorse the points just made by my colleagues. Because of its stage in the regulation process and the unresolved objections, only very limited weight is being given to any policies in our revised NP. The point was highlighted by both Peter and Bob, and I too want to challenge that weighting judgment, particularly in relation to policy ENV1. This application site lies in a proposed area of separation. Therefore, I contend that ENV1 is a material consideration even at this Regulation 16 stage. Thus, it ought to be given more than very limited weight because this development will clearly and visibly compromise the separate identity and distinctiveness of Great Bowden. So you may wish to reconsider the weighting. I recognise that we're all in a horrible bind due to the lack of housing land supply and the government's continual changing targets and regulations. Whatever your decision tonight, councillors, I would at least like to gain some tangible mitigations for Leicester Lane residents. I've got two items which I would like to cover. One is I've noticed just today that condition 6 of the highway's latest response covering the routing of construction traffic seems to be missing from the conditions. We know from experience that fully laden 30 and 40 tonners over a 200-year-old canal bridge do not mix, and certainly not when the bridge is a non-designated heritage asset sited next to a Grade 2 listed building and both are in a conservation area. Surely, to avoid substantial harm to the heritage assets, as per policy HC1, there should be a condition that all construction traffic avoids routing to and from the site via the canal bridge on Leicester Lane. Additionally, any damage to the bridge would also affect the bus routes and nullify the sustainable travel plan. You might wish to consider this request for a further condition. Returning then to our proposal, our detailed proposal in the supplementary report submitted on Tuesday, our request is for an outbound priority gateway to be installed at the point to which the 30-mile-per-hour terminal moves, and that the gateway should become a condition of this planning consent subject to highways. I understand, I heard Nicola saying that they had suggested some alternative wording, and obviously we'd be very interested to hear that. But our report was detailed and
Thank you. That is your 3 minutes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions for the speaker? No? Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Rob Thorley, who is a supporter. You've got 6 minutes, Mr. Thorley. If you'd like to switch the microphone on and start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Hopefully I won't keep you for 6 minutes. I represent Gelson Homes. Gelson Homes is a family-owned and locally based house builder that may be familiar to a number of you. Gelson has been successfully building popular family homes across Leicestershire and within Harbour District now for over 130 years. The company employs over 700 locally based staff across its house building sites and within its offices and workshops in Leicester. This includes many skilled craftsmen and apprentices who not just help to construct the houses but also help to produce our own in-house windows and kitchens as an example. As your officers have described in their report and through their presentation, the development proposed represents a modest extension to the village of Great Bowden in a sustainable location. The development proposals have not generated any technical or environmental objections and will have a limited impact on the wider landscape. This includes maintaining appropriate separation from the future proposed northward expansion of Market Harborough. And just on that point, I would add that you noted and been pointed out that there will be an existing gap retained between the site and the conservation area in the canal. The canal itself has quite a significant tree belt associated with it. And of course, the ability to build in further separation if required will take place through the planning of that future sustainable northward extension of Market Harborough, should that go forward through the planned process. That's only a conceptual stage at the moment. In addition to providing much needed market and affordable homes, the scheme will also provide financial support to local schools, healthcare, community facilities, libraries, open space and sustainable travel. We understand the concerns about the neighbourhood plan, but can only endorse the weight that can be attributed to it that's been suggested by your officers, which reflects national guidance and case law. We believe the proposals represent a sustainable and sensible response to meeting the district's housing needs and addressing the current shortfall, and Gelson would accordingly urge members to endorse the recommendations of your officers this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Thorley? No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Have the officers got anything to say, Nicola?
I was just going to come back on Carolyn Ford's couple of comments. The first one regarding condition 6. Yes, you are correct. That has been missed off, of which I apologise, and that can be added on if members are minded to approve the application. And then the other point you raised within the supplementary paper, I don't know if you've seen the copy. They say that, I'm just going to read out what the higher authority said. Given the short turnaround, I'm not able to confirm with our engineers whether the principle of a priority gateway would be acceptable. Therefore, if you were minded to agree with the attached proposals, I would request that any condition obligation refer to a revised village gateway and associated traffic calming rather than a specific mention of a priority gateway. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's open to the committee. Councillor Graves?
Just a very quick technical question. On page 111 of our agenda, which is, I don't know what page for Councillor Bremner, it's probably something is 20 pages in or something. Policy GD6 is not mentioned in the list of relevant policies. Is it not relevant?
It's not relevant. Again, if you refer to, if I just find the correct plan in my report.
Reason I mention it is I think it was mentioned by one of the speakers, and I
correct.
noted it down to ask an officer.
So, if I can, where are we? So if you look at figure 5, so under paragraph 6.30. Well, actually, probably start with 6.26. Sorry, start at 6.26. 115. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see this is the extract of the local plan policies map, the one that we're looking to submit for examination. It doesn't show it. That shows that the site is not being proposed as an area separation within the emerging local plan. It's also not currently within the current local plan. However, if you turn the page over, the Great Bowden Neighbour Plan Review is proposing an area separation.
Thank you for the clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bremner?
Could I ask officers exactly what the weight is of the neighbourhood plan at the current stage it's in? I'm looking at another council's website, and it was detailed in August 2025 that independent examination, I guess when that is concluded, that the successful plan carries considerable weight. So at what stage is the neighbourhood plan at the current juncture?
I think, as we heard from the speakers, I think they've said that it's been submitted now for examination. But the point that I'm making is because there's still unresolved objections that need to be tested at examination, we can only give it limited weight. And I've taken that from paragraph 49 of the National Planning Policy Framework, plus recent appeal decisions and case law. So that's the decision that I've come to in terms of weighting. Again, members, if they want to consider different weighting, you're entitled to choose a different weighting. But as a professional officer, my advice to you is that we can only give it limited weight.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor James?
Thank you, Chair. Highways. We've got some additional information, I think, tonight, which is referring to the gateways to the development. Is that correct, Nicola?
No, again, Caroline.
Nicola will explain it to you, Councillor James.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicola.
What Caroline Ford was referring to earlier was that the community have put together a suggestion that if members are minded to approve the application, and you'll see within the supplementary paper what they're asking for is regarding the gateway features. We have checked that with the local planning, the local highway authority, and the local highway authority are concerned that the condition that's being as proposed would not meet the necessity test, because ultimately the local highway authority have said to us that the access is safe and suitable, and they've suggested the conditions and obligations they think are necessary, and they don't think this is necessary. However, if members feel, on the basis of what the speakers have said and what the local community wishes are, that you could word a condition or obligation such that a revised village gateway and associated traffic calming details are submitted, and would not be the ones that are currently being put forward by the developer.
Okay,
But ultimately, the local highway authority is satisfied with what the developer has submitted, but an alternative has been put forward by the speakers and the local community.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we come out of this development and turn right towards the A6, yeah?
Yes.
And we come to the Gartree Crossroads.
We do, yes.
An incredibly dangerous place. I've raised this before. We spoke about this when the prison infrastructure was talked about. There's been a very serious accident recently there, high-speed accident. Any additional traffic is going to just compound the problem. And I think that junction, really needs a good look at. I go out that junction quite a bit, and I always if I'm going to Leicester, I turn left, turn the other island, and come back up. And a lot of people are doing that. It's incredibly dangerous. And the more traffic we put on there, the more dangerous it becomes, and the risks are higher. And I'm disappointed, actually, that with this application, there is not anything in there to do anything about that junction, the Gartree Crossroads junction. It's going to get busier and busier and busier. Obviously, a few years away, but when the prison starts up, it'll be a bigger problem there. And I think that junction needs urgent attention now, would be my comment.
Thank you, Councillor James.
Highways.
Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I agree with Councillor James on that. And I think, we might want to maybe put a note in there or something. Now, could you just elaborate on me? The speaker was talking about the bridge, and I tend to know that bridge very well. So I've looked through the papers and I can't see any traffic routing agreement. So have I missed it somewhere? Could you talk to me through that?
Yes.
And the other thing is, because I think that bridge is really volatile there. And the other thing, which in relation to the separation areas, can you point that out to me? Because with the other development on the map, so I can see where future separation areas will be.
Regarding your first point regarding the routing of construction traffic, as I mentioned, Caroline Ford mentioned this, and I've apologised that yes, she's correct. One of the conditions that was suggested by the Highway Authority has not gone through into the suggested conditions. So if members are minded to recommend the application for approval, that condition will go on to ensure that details of construction and the routing of them have to be submitted to us, then has to be checked by the local Highway Authority. So that will be dealt with. In terms of the area separation,
with a special mention of that bridge, because, as I say, I used to walk that a lot, and I used to live at Great Badmore, because if that bridge has got all of that traffic, it is really, really volatile.
I can add a note to applicant about avoiding the canal bridge, but ultimately it will be for the developer to submit those details and for the local highway authority to confirm whether they're acceptable or not.
You can mention, if we're minded to approve it, to put Councillor James's comment to highways to note the intensification onto the main road. They might just do some traffic signs or a stop sign or something.
It would be wrong of me to say that we can ask the developer to do that. The local highway authority have assessed the application and they have provided their comments. It would not be appropriate to put such a condition or a note to applicant on.
Well, the local highway authority always tells us it's for them to make a technical recommendation, but for us to set conditions or to accept them or to amend them. So we could just try, because I think it is really important.
Again, I can understand your concerns, but we have to be mindful of the necessity tests, the tests that are set out within the circular of planning conditions, and I do not believe it would meet those tests. The most I can do is potentially put a note to applicant on, but I would be mindful of saying to members to ask for a condition. I don't know, Keith, do you want to come
For
in here from
now,
a legal
note
point
to
of view,
applicant
please?
will do.
Keith?
I completely agree with what Nicholas said. I don't feel I can add anything else to what Nicholas said. I'm fully in support of the view of the planning officers.
Well, perhaps we could consider a note to applicant then. Okay, Councillor James?
Just on the, I should know really, but is there a weight limit on that canal bridge? I mean, it's going to be a very, very old
I
bridge.
think so. I would have thought there was.
I don't recall one. No. I think that should be looked at.
But I think that the condition that Nicola's saying we'll put on if we approve this application will cover all that because it's a construction
Routing. Yeah.
routing condition. Okay.
And sorry, so if I can
Carry on.
can I come back now on your area separation point? I haven't put it in the presentation purely because the site currently isn't in an area separation. It's not proposed as an area separation within the emerging local plan, but it is proposed as an area separation in the Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan review. And those plans are with the plans that I referred to earlier, paragraph 6.26 and at the end of 6.30. They're the only plans that I've got. I haven't physically got them on the presentation.
No, that is what I wanted to clarify was a separation area within the local plan, but there isn't.
There isn't.
So
No.
it's just in the neighbourhood.
Only the neighbourhood plan, not the current neighbourhood plan, the emerging neighbourhood plan review.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bannister?
Just seeking clarification again about this area of separation. The Market Harbour North proposal does extend as far as the Grand Union Canal, is that correct?
Yes,
So
that's
that would
correct.
leave essentially a field.
Oh, well, I'll point this out to you. So this can, again, if you can see my cursor, is my cursor working? Yes. So this is the application site here. Can
Yeah.
you see that? So the next field will be free of development, obviously in terms of the area separation is approved by the inspector for the Great Bowden Neighbourhood Plan review. And then obviously you've got a house here that's right next to I think it's called Waterways Cottage.
Yes.
Next to the canal. Then obviously you'll then have the development beyond that. But again, we've got no details before us in terms of the landscape, and there might be a huge amount of landscaping potentially along all the length of that Grand Union Canal corridor as well.
David Atkinson?
Yeah, we obviously will require framework master planning parameters plans from the developers linked to the delivery of Market Harbour North, and we're aware that the canal is a conservation area, a linear conservation area, so it could well be prudent for the developer to respect that and to build in additional buffer separation, which would benefit the separation of this development as well next to the west of the canal. But we don't know that yet. That would just be an anecdotal good idea that I would suggest. Thank you, Chairman.
And I should also add that the development framework, again, that I referred to, although it's obviously indicative, there is a condition that I've suggested. I'm just finding out the exact condition for you. And where I've actually said that we would require details of structural planting. So yes, on condition 9, the landscape scheme, the last second to last bullet point, I've said that structural planting along the western and northern site boundaries. So I specifically said that we require details for that, and that will also help to potentially reduce any perceived coalescence that might come in the future. But like I say, this is the future. Both of these are emerging plans. They haven't been examined yet. So again, only limited weight can be given to that particular point on area separation.
Okay, Councillor Graves first, then Councillor James.
Yeah, quick point, please, Chair. I'm sorry, but I didn't follow the conclusion of the conversation about the planning condition for accessing the site. I've checked, I don't know how up to date it is, but Google Street View, and yes, there's a 7.5 ton sign. And given there's so many other conditions, I mean, nearly 30, sure, I can't see one for vehicle construction vehicle to site.
No, this is what I've said. I've apologised. There should have been a condition.
Oh,
but
sorry,
there
that's
wasn't.
what I missed.
So,
I missed you saying that then. Okay, thank you.
Okay. David
I do
Atkinson.
apologise again. I hope I'm not reopening this, but I've just read up and turned up the proposed policy in a new local plan. I appreciate its limited weight, but the policy as written is maximise opportunities for strategic green and blue infrastructure along the Grand Union Canal, and to maintain and respect the visual separation of the cluster of sites and the village of Great Bowden, to prevent coalescence with Market Harbour and retain the identity of each settlement. So the separation of Market Harbour North from Great Bowden is actually required in the new proposed policy in the new local plan, albeit with limited weight at the moment, not been tested at examination with outstanding objections. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. Just a change of subject then, and that is the medical facilities. And I think Councillor Elliott referred to that earlier, didn't you, on an earlier application. Now, it's interesting here. We've got the St Luke's Surgery Medical Centre, Market Harbour, requesting £50,000 and talking about 126 additional patients. So this doesn't appear to be capital. I'm just wondering again what that contribution is for. And the reason I'm saying this is because presently at the Market Harbour Medical Centre in Market Harbour, there is a 6-week waiting list. It's the biggest issue that I'm facing at the moment. I'm getting 2 or 3 calls a week. I had one at 8 o'clock last night. Stories of being referred from Glenfield to the medical centre and told because of an urgent problem, and then being told you'll have to wait 6 weeks, or go to A&E, or call 111, or if you want a blood test, you wait 6 weeks to have a phone call to see whether you really need one. And that medical centre is absolutely at capacity. And we are building now, aren't we? Not this is application, but we're building at the moment, and it's very concerning. We refer to it here, and this is the reality of what's going on with a lot of the medical situations, and I find it very, very difficult to support any application at the moment which hasn't got something really positive about improving the NHS services, because it's just getting worse and worse. So I think I need to make those comments. But if Nicola can help with regard to what that 50,000 contribution is going to do to actually reduce the waiting lists or to do something that's improving the situation, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicola.
Chair.
All I can say is that it is a capital cost, and it will be down to the ICV, the NHS, to decide what they want to do with that money, i.e. extend a particular building or improve a facility so to enable potentially more patients to get through and be seen. I'm not the NHS, I can't answer for it, and unfortunately I haven't got their full detailed request here, but it is a capital cost.
Okay, thank you. Be unfair to you, Nicola, in that respect, but I think they should be telling us what they're going to do.
James, I think we've.
And their objective should be to reduce the waiting list.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay. Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, I am not particularly happy, but unfortunately we are in the same situation we were with the previous application. We haven't got the 5-year housing supply, and we have to adhere to the principle of development so that everything is in favour of development. So I would like to bite the bullet and move as recommended by officers with the note to applicant, and for the applicant to note that we are extremely concerned and the applicant can pay for some additional signing or whatever at the main road, because that is all possible. So note to applicant, subject to all of the conditions we debated, routing and whatever. If Nicola can read out all of the things, or the officers, so subject to all of the debated conditions, what we've just said, I move for approval. Yes.
Okay, have I got a seconder? Councillor Graves, are you seconding?
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Seconded by Councillor Graves. Adrian will try and help you out.
So I think the one addition is under condition 11, construction method statement. We had a category H, which is a construction vehicle routing. And we had an informative note. The applicant is asked to approach the county council about any assistance it can offer to improving signage and general safety at the Gallowfield Leicester Road junction. Oh, So is that, so do you want to talk about?
The bridge.
Sorry. The bridge.
Yes.
The bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, the other, I was going to say was the condition that has been suggested by the local community, but that's been changed by the local hire authority to put a condition onto that as well.
Yeah, the revised gateway and associated
I like
traffic
David's
calming.
point in relation to the separation area also to be noted and reflected, because I think that is very, very important going forward, just to note it.
I don't think we can note it because it's
Councillor
proper.
Petter, that was me sort of seeking to help members with the protection
Yeah.
that MH3 provides. I think it's not really relating to this site.
No.
So it might be quite a tricky one for, I'll defer to the officers in the directorate. But it was just to indicate to members there is strong protection for Great Bowden in the Market Harbour North Strategic Development Area policy. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would have been nice to form part of the report, but but we are where we are. So move to approve.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So it's been proposed by Councillor Mrs. Page and seconded by, who was it seconded by? Councillor Graves, that we accept this application, and I'll hand it over to Democratic Services to carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Again, just in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, we're going to complete a recorded vote. So this is a vote for, or against, or abstain for the approval of the application. So Councillor Bannister,
For.
Councillor Burrell,
For.
Councillor Elliott,
For.
Councillor Graves,
For.
Councillor James,
Against.
Councillor Scott,
For.
Councillor Wellband,
For.
Councillor Dr. Bremner,
For.
and Councillor Mrs. Page. And make that 8-1, so that application's approved.
Thank you very much. So that application is approved. Our next application is on page 159 of your report. It's 25/01565/OUT, land south of Ashby Road, Ullersthorpe, and Ruth Meadows Smith is going to present for us. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. This is a proposal for housing in the village of Ullersthorpe as described in the application description. This first slide shows the site lying to the east of the village. This is an aerial photo of Ullersthorpe. You can see the quite clear landscape character, I suppose, of the former disused railway line running sort of north-south through the village. Then there is Ashby Road coming off here to the north, and this is the road down here to Bitterswell. Out here, the road leads to Claybrook Magna and Claybrook Parva. Towards the centre of the village is the primary school with its playing field. There's a recent development here to the north, and you can see this field here is the recreation ground for the village. This is just some slides now to show the site, because I don't believe members went on site. So this first one here on the top left, this is the existing access to the site. So you can see here it's quite a wide junction, and it serves a housing development here. You can see one of the dwellings here, bungalows. There's some more just around here. That is field view, and just in there you can see the white of the site notice, which is on the gate where the access to the existing site is. This photograph here shows the other side of that gate. So this is from within the site looking north. There's the gateway, and this is that same bungalow at field view. This is, if you turn round 180 degrees, this is now looking along the western boundary of the site. And you can see here houses and gardens of two-storey dwellings that run a similar north-south alignment on Goodacre Road. And then I've turned another 90 degrees and looked east across the site. So you can see here the site is arable field. To the left of the picture are the dwellings on field view. The site drops down, you can't see the dip, and then it rises up again the other side. So this is from within roughly the centre of the site looking west. There are the houses on Goodacre Road. And you can just, maybe not quite see, the hedgerow to the right bounds field view. You can also see on the left-hand side of the picture, this house here, there's some other houses here, they are on the road that leads to Bitterswell. This is a view from within the site looking towards the south boundary. You can see that there's sort of trees and a bit of a raggedy hedge here, and then it drops to a quite well-maintained hedge. There's a little gate in here, and then it rises up again with more well-maintained hedge there. This is a zoomed-in picture from within the site looking south. You can see Ashby Road is here. There's a truck going along it, so that dips down here and it rises up here. You can see in the distance some sheds, which are Magna Park sheds, and a wind turbine. And this is looking kind of northeast. So these houses here are the ones on field view, the ones on the left of the picture. These houses here with the render, they're quite recent development, Lees Close. And behind these trees, just here in the centre of the picture, if the mouse turns up, is the recreation ground. And the site extends into the distance here. So that land's rising up again. That's also part of the site. These are some photos taken from within the recreation ground. So you can see the tree belt here, and the development site is the other side of that. Here are the houses, fairly recent builds on Lees Close. Lees Close is just here, the other side of that hedge, and this is looking south towards the north boundary of the site here, behind those trees and hedges. So this is a photograph taken on the road to Bitterswell. So this is right down south. Again, there's a dip in the ground, and this is looking north towards the site, which would be in here. These are the new build houses on Lees Close, and you can see here the houses on Goodacre Road. This is the plan submitted with the application, and you can see how the site's divided into roughly 2/3 and 1/3, with the eastern third from the lower part of the land rising up, reserved for public open space, including walking routes, possibly a community orchard, the suds, the attenuation basin, and the western 2/3 of the site being where the housing or dwellings would be developed. You can see the access point coming in there from Ashby Road, and an indicative location of a LAP, which I believe stands for Local Area Play. This is the detailed access plan which is to be considered. It shows you there, it comes in from field view, would retain the shared access onto Ashby Road with field view, but would have now a footway, a footpath in on the western side of it. As set out in the report, one letter of objection has been received. The parish make comments but no specific objection, and all technical consultees are satisfied. Subject to a Section 106 legal agreement, the conditions in Appendix A of the report, officers recommend that the application is approved for the reasons as set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ruth. We've got one speaker. Alex Munro, if you'd like to come forward, please. You want to switch the microphone on? You've got 3 minutes and you'll be given a 30-second warning. Start when you're ready, please. Thank you.
Members have heard a few speakers tonight. I'll keep this probably easily within the 3 minutes. Thanks for allowing me to speak on behalf of my client and the joint applicants Manor Oak Homes and ES Stimpson. Firstly, I wish to welcome and endorse the recommendation made to members this evening in respect to my client's proposal for up to 46 new homes, along with generous open space on the site at Ashby Road, Ullersthorpe. Once again, thank you to Ruth for her report. Tonight's recommendation has been reached largely thanks to consistent, positive and constructive discussions with Ruth, but with your officers more generally through the pre-application stage. An exercise that actually helped shape the final composition and layout of the proposals, and also these discussions continued constructively throughout the course of the draft of the actual application. The scheme before members reflects the direction of your draft local plan, which once again is proposing to allocate the site for residential development. The proposal would secure the delivery of new homes at the right location adjacent to a sustainable village in Ullisthorpe. It would ensure the delivery of new homes at the right time as well. Members are obviously acutely aware there's an urgent need for housing across the district due to the lack of a 5-year supply. It's therefore clear that further housing permissions in sustainable locations are required to overcome this deficit. Then, thanks to the positive discussions undertaken with your highways colleagues, this scheme can also be served by a vehicular access that is well designed and safe. It's informed by up-to-date speed surveys and safety audits that informed the application and secured the agreement of your officers. A number of contributions are sought alongside proposals to allow the delivery of supporting infrastructure, a topic that's obviously been discussed quite a lot tonight already. The applicant is happy to secure all of these contributions within the eventual Section 106 legal agreement as described in your officer's report. In which case, the grant of plan permission for homes on a site which is supported by your officers, by the emerging local plan, and obviously critically accords with policy GD2 of your adopted local plan, and also has no objection from Ullisthorpe Parish Council or other technical consultees, appears logical and appropriate. I therefore respectfully invite members of the committee to agree with this conclusion and support your officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munro. Are there any questions? Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. Now, as you are aware, on page 163, there's a comment from the Ullisthorpe Parish Council. And whilst the Ullisthorpe Parish Council and myself as a ward councillor are not, we're fully well aware that there is no 5-year housing supply and that, you know, we got not very much choice other than supporting it, but one of the largest concern is the foul water sewage. Now, if you're reading the comment, you will find that Severn Trent will tell us, which is their legal right, that they can connect or anybody can connect at any time. However, the largest problem in Ullisthorpe is that any rainstorms, anything else, the manhole covers pop up and foul water sewage comes and runs down the street. We've even had foul sewage coming up out of toilets in houses. So whilst it's saying here there's a plan supposed, and it is perfectly okay to connect, has your applicant got any suggestions, or will they evaluate those comments in order trying to alleviate any of the problems with foul water sewage that may arise in future from this development?
Thank you. I mean, obviously sympathise with the issue. It's not an uncommon issue, unfortunately, especially in rural areas. We do come across this a lot, and we obviously appreciate your concerns. I think one of the points to raise at this stage, and it's a little bit of a cop-out, but obviously this is an outline application at this point. There will be significant detail down the line in respect of all technical matters, which includes surface water drainage, which includes attenuation, and which includes the foul water scheme. I noticed there's actually condition 10 included on the schedule, which requires engagement with the the drainage, with the infrastructure provider. I do believe we did some pre-application inquiries, and obviously they gave us the standard answer, yes, there's capacity. And obviously from our client's perspective, they don't want to deliver sites that are of a poor quality or harm the local area. So, I mean, we would by nature engage with the correct bodies at the right time. I mean, that's unfortunately, that's all the assurances I can give you at this stage.
As long as it is noted, it is appreciated.
No, I
Thank
can
you,
guarantee it is noted, and obviously from your officer's perspective, it will be something they carry forward.
Councillor Bremner, you had a
Thank you.
question?
Yeah. I know this is outlined, obviously, but just looking at that image, you've got the nice sort of violet area where you've got your 46 homes, yeah? And then you've got the green open space. There's a dotted white line across there. That's not going to move towards the green space and take away some green space at some time. Or is it going to move the other way when you find that your design space can fit in sweetly 46 homes and you can have more green space? That's my question.
I think the simple answer to that is no. I mean, ultimately, what we have done in terms of the what's well, no. So I can quantify that and provide you with some assurances. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, obviously, this is the scheme that's in front of you. This is the permission that's hopefully going to be granted. Obviously, if there was going to be any further encroachment, I mean, this plan is up for approval. So as part of the application, you would secure the parameters set out in front of you. What I can say as well is that this is obviously following the parameters of the draft allocation in the emerging local plan, which actually describes the developable area versus the area of green space exactly. And that's largely governed by, so that the line that divides you call it violet, grey, violet, whichever colour, but the violet and the green is actually a channel which channels surface water flows across site. And that's a natural divide. That's a natural dividing line. Obviously, the additional land has been included as part of the allocation to provide the open space, to provide the suds, the drainage infrastructure. But there isn't a natural ability to bridge that gap, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
But you'd have to bridge it to give access.
Access to
from the development to the green space.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, access in terms of. I mean, obviously in terms of sort of walking access. I mean, there is no. It's not. That's not a stream. That's a surface water flow. So sometimes it is wet. But obviously, in terms of passing from, there is a draft landscape strategy plan which accompanies the application, which shows ways that pedestrians and users of the open green space can actually pass from one parcel to the other. But in terms of fixed infrastructure, so roads, etc., there is guidance which suggests that should not be crossing surface water flows.
I think the planning authority and the developer should be commended for a plan that contains green space, which is a third of the area.
I completely agree. And I think, I mean, certainly having worked on this application since the point of submission and back into the pre-application discussions, I mean, I think that this stands to be a good development. And as I say, if there was going to be any deviation from the plan you see in front of you, it would need fresh permission, it would need fresh consideration, and would likely, I wouldn't say fulfill, but would likely fall into complications in terms of the LLFA's view.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll open it up to the committee and Councillor Wellband, hello.
Hi. I also agree with what you said, Paul, and the amount of open green space there is very good. I have no problems with this, so I'm happy to propose approval. Thank you.
That's proposed by Councillor Wellband. Councillor Mrs. Page, do you want to say something?
I want to say something first, and that is on page 161, the contribution, the Station Road, Ullathorpe. It's not the White Cliff, it is the Broughton Astley surgery that services Ullathorpe in there. So that needs to be looked at. The other thing is, you've heard me talk about the sewage, and the sewage is a real problem. So, if that can be considered and a note being made in when it is approved. The other thing it is that when there is a routing agreement, as you come out and you're going right down Ashby Lane, there are little speed humps, and then the road zigzags, so you can't get out of Main Road, and there's no way any construction traffic can now really go out because no two cars can go. So that has to be noted, and the routing agreement has to go out somehow through the villages. And I will do something I might get shot at for a second the approval. Oh, well, yeah, well, it's all right.
Councillor Bannister, are you going to shoot her?
Not at all. I'm just seeking clarification on the SIL contribution, 106 contributions for the schools, because it's 125,300 odd going to Lutterworth College. But Ellisthorpe does have a primary school, and I was just wondering why in the 106 contributions there isn't anything for the village school, which is just around the corner from this development.
Unless it's got enough spaces.
By answer, yes, thank you, Councillor Bannister. It'll simply be because there's enough space already at the school and it can cope with the development. It doesn't need to provide mitigation for it. So it's that one. Can I just go back to Councillor Mrs. Page's point about the Wycliffe medical practice? So that's in there because that's what the ICB said. But yeah, I can check that.
I'm sorry, but they might have said that, but that satellite centre in Ullerthorpe is run by the Broughton Medical
I will
Practice.
check that.
Yeah.
I will check that.
Okay. Thank you. Has anyone got anything else to say? If not, I'll go to the vote. So it's been proposed by Councillor Wellband, seconded by Councillor Page. I'll leave it to the officers to carry on now.
Thank you. Again, in accordance with the provisions of the council's constitution, we're going to do a recorded vote. So this is for, against, or abstain the approval of the application. So Councillor Bannister,
For.
Councillor Burrell,
For.
Councillor Elliott,
For.
Councillor Graves,
For.
Councillor James,
For.
Councillor Scott,
Or
Councillor Wellband,
For.
Councillor Dr. Bremner,
For.
Councillor Mrs. Page. For. That is 10-0, so that is unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. So that application is approved. Thank you, everyone. Our next application is on.
Sorry, Chair, just for clarification,
Yes,
it was
yes.
9 rather than 10. Sorry, I'm not very good at maths.
I know my vote counts as twice, but hey.
Councillor Bannister.
Can I just remind the chairs of the time?
Yes, I was just looking. Do you want to do an extension of time now?
I think it would be best, yes. So if you're happy in consensus to carry on until the end of the applications, that's fine. We'll carry on.
Okay, thank you. That's agreed. Okay, right. Our next application is on page 198 of the papers. It's 25/01728/FUL Commons Car Park, erection of electric vehicle charging hub. It's a variation of a previous scheme that we gave permission to, and Adrian is going to present this.
Yes, Chairman. In fact, I really just commend the report. I've really nothing to add. There's a plan in the report. There's one on screen, but really, I'll leave to that. Any questions?
Okay, Councillor Graves.
Yeah, very quick question. I installed solar on my house a year and a half ago, 6 kilowatt panels, 12 kilowatt battery. I don't suppose I can ask a question about the odd situation where there's a large amount of solar voltaic panels, nearly 42 kilowatts, and a smaller battery, which means that the battery will be full up in less than an hour of full sunshine. I just think that something's gone a bit wrong with the setup of this. I mean, in planning terms, I don't think tonight is we can say no, but I'm really surprised to see such a small battery. With my 6 kilowatts panels in full sunlight, they generate up to 45 kilowatt, which is 7.5 times their kilowatts in a bright sunny day. I just think it's free energy being lost. But anyway, as I say, I don't know if there's a planning issue, but I just wanted to raise that obvious comment. Thank you, Chair.
Adrian.
You're right, it's not a planning issue, but I do appreciate it's an obvious comment. I'm not an expert on the figures, but the same kind of general thought occurred to me. But I'm assuming ultimately this is a long running project. It will be future proof for whatever happens in the future, etc. So.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there's much to say about this one. Did you want to say something, Councillor James?
Yeah. Can I ask, is this a self-contained unit? In other words, is all the power coming from the solar panels on the canopy going into the battery if necessary, or is there a mains feed into it as well?
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's self-contained, whether it needs, but again, whether it needs some bump, if you like, to get going from the mains. But ultimately, again, it's an operational matter rather than a planning decision.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Also, sorry, just supplementary. We've at the moment in the Commons car park, we've got 3 existing. I think it's 3 charge points. I think last time I saw 2 of them had a bin bag on them. But are they going? Because we're losing some spaces, but are they staying or are they being removed? Those existing 3 by the Commons car park toilets.
Yeah, and this does fractionally lose a few parking spaces. I do not know the answer to whether they, again, I would have to refer to that. So there is a general point about a reduction in parking spaces, I accept, but I think that would have to be an operational decision what goes on with the others. It's not really before us tonight.
Yeah, because if they return to normal parking, then we're not losing so many conventional spaces, are we?
Okay, Councillor Elliott.
I think we're all happy. Well, I'm certainly happy with this and happy to move it forward.
Okay, so you're proposing it?
Yeah.
Councillor Graves wanted to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let someone else second it, but I just want to say this absolutely is connected to the grid because a 30 kilowatt battery charges half a vehicle, and more than 99% of residential solar installations have to be grid connected. There's very, very, very few that are off grid, but the battery is so weak you can't charge more than half a vehicle, so it's definitely grid connected.
David Atkinson would like to say a word.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not planning issues we've brought us tonight, but it is a corporate project. It's discussed at CMT in project management context. So I'll mention Councillor Graves's technical points about the battery capacity and whether we could do a better job, if you like, with a bigger. I'm not sure what the constraints are, whether it's requirements of the funding or I don't know the details, but I'll mention it and see what comes back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bremner.
Just a comment. Are we monitoring when this is built, how many people actually use it? Because anyone with electric cars generally have home chargers, so wouldn't use this. It would be more likely visitors that would use this facility. So I think we should monitor as these are developed, the actual usage level. Because if we start putting lots of them around the district and they're not actually used, I'm a bit concerned that we need to know that usage level.
I think that's probably part of the project that David is talking about.
That's part of the project. This is I won't go into the details as to the funding. It's probably not appropriate in this meeting, but it's funded by external government funding mechanism and support. So the research has gone into that, and that funding was attracted on the back of that research.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
I'm happy to second it, Chair.
Okay, right.
In the protected, it's in a fenced area. Is that what
I think there's a condition about that.
Because with cars driving about in there, that battery will contain quite a lot of
I think it will
power.
be protected.
It's protected from vehicle damage. Yeah.
There's a condition. Okay, so we've.
Thank you.
And is there is there fire protection envisaged?
I'm sure they'll have the proper protection.
Yeah,
With
ultimately, it would
with
be on the
respect,
planning side of things. So there'll be relevant regulations, etc., in terms of highway safety and.
Sorry, I didn't catch the first, but I was
So
listening
if
to what
you- if
councillor
you-
Burrell was saying.
Yeah, if you look at the conditions on page 218. Okay.
Please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so I'm sure there'll be appropriate standards in terms of fire safety outside the planning regulations, so they'll be working to those standards.
But fire regulations do come under planning, don't they? Under our remit.
No,
Oh.
actually, no. So
Not-
you've
not
got
at all.
planning approval, then you've got building regulation approval, for example, and if fire safety is covered, it
Sorry,
would be
it's building
more like building regulations.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Shall we go to the vote then? So it's been proposed by councillor Elliott and seconded by councillor Graves that we approve this application. It's over to DS for us.
Thank you. So we'll move to the recorded vote. This is for, against, or abstain the approval of the application. Councillor Bannister,
For.
Councillor Burrell,
For.
Councillor Elliott,
For.
Councillor Graves,
For.
Councillor James,
For.
Councillor Scott, Councillor Wellbrand, Councillor Dr. Bremner,
For.
and Councillor Mrs. Page. Just going to check my maths. Yeah, so it's 9. It's unanimous for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. That application is approved unanimously. Our next application is the final one at Mere Lane, Bittersby. On page 219 of your papers, and it's 25/01737/REM. And it's for a bit, the last remaining bit, I believe, of Magna Park North. Carry on, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. So as Councillor Bell has pointed out, this is the last remaining warehouse on Magna Park North to be considered for approval. So you can see here, this is the contextual plan showing the site. Magna Park North will be a bit central part of Magna Park down here. The site we're looking at this evening is this one in here. The one to the north isn't yet built, but it has been approved. This was the previous application that we considered at that committee last year. So a quick look through the slides. This is the proposed layout with the warehouse in central to the plot. The spine road running through the sites just to the left here, where there'll be an access to the yard. There's also a secondary route to the north, again with an access to the HGV yard, and access to the parking area is off both of those roads, and the parking area is connected in this corner. In terms of the appearance, again, it's the same as the rest of the development. You see that fairly now recognisable elevational treatment. There is a speaker on the application, Chair, and also a small bit of information on the supplementary information list. So I'll hand back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Our final speaker of the night is Mr. Stubbings. I don't need to tell you what to do I? So you've got 3 minutes. If you'd like to take your seat and carry on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I thought I'd just perhaps make myself available more for questions and provide a little bit of background information to the park and where we're at. I think, as Mark has said, this is the last plot that doesn't benefit from a reserve matters approval. So this is number 18. So there's been 11 reserve matters approvals on the south, Magna Park South, and the remainder on the north. We've built 16 out of 18 units. So there's 2 remaining. As Mark says, the plot to the north, immediately to the north of this, benefits from a reserve matters approval. This plot and the plot to the north of it, we can only occupy one of those buildings until we deliver the new roundabout on the A5. That's work in progress. My best estimate for delivery of that is Q3 next year. That's been quite a torturous process, I'm afraid, with National Highways, but we're well on with that. And just a little bit of an update on the building immediately to the south of this plot. That was a very large unit, MPN 5 or 761 as we refer to it, which reflects the size of the unit, 761,000 square feet. We built that speculatively last year, and we've just leased that building as well, which is very encouraging, shows good market demand for buildings of this size. Hence our desire to bring forward this development on this plot, really. So yeah, that's all. But like I say, I'm more than happy to answer any questions in relation to the plot itself or any other sort of Magna Park related questions, really.
Page.
Oh, really? What? Just a sentence and we'll go.
So for a start, thanks for turning up and giving us an update, and thank you for waiting all this time. As you know, I'm very keen on SUDS. Give me an update on the SUDS and give me a little update on our Bitterswell House Innovation Centre, because I think, it was part of the original application. So if you talk us through that.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So in terms of SUDS, most of the surface water drainage from the park goes into the dedicated attenuation ponds, which are in the country park. So anyone visiting the country park, you'll note that those attenuation ponds, they're purpose built and they're permanently wet, but they have significant capacity to take rainwater in storm events. In terms of on plot, every unit we build has rainwater harvesting systems. So water that falls on the roof is collected and used within the WCs, etc. So it's as sustainable as possible. So that's how we continue to approach the surface water drainage across the park. In terms of the innovation centre, I think it may well have been a delegated approval, actually. There was an approval granted last year to convert some of the redundant space in and around Bittersby House. So Bittersby House accommodates the CLEAR project, the collaboration between Wincanton, which is GXO now, and South Leicestershire and North Warwickshire College. So they're in Bittersby House itself, but the farm buildings adjacent to the house itself are all currently being converted at the moment, and that will be the dedicated sort of innovation and research centre for Magna Park. That work is due to conclude in July, so we're nearly there. If you are visiting the park, you'll see a significant amount of work has been undertaken there. There's been an extension built, so that's a new build extension on the end of the farm buildings, and there was a cottage as such attached to Bittersby House, which was just a single skin, no insulation, no foundations. We demolished that, and that's been completely rebuilt as well. So we're well on with those works, and we've got a sort of an operator lined up who will then assist us in the running of that innovation centre.
I have to come back because this is recorded, and I'm sure there'll be some people listening. So I forgot, and it would be remiss of me to ask, what about solar panels? As you know, we keep getting that one. Solar panels are all, I haven't walked it recently because I got a dodgy knee, but have all of the, I walked it all, several times.
What?
All of all of the bridle path and everything fully completed. And the last question is the Innovation Centre, will that be also available and open for small businesses of the wider public to assess rather than people connected with Magna Park only?
Yes. So taking those in reverse order, Councillor Page, the Innovation Centre, we're very open to potentially accommodating small businesses. We had a sort of workshop earlier this week on the Innovation Centre, and Angela, as the Magna Park manager, will be reaching out to Jamie as the economic officer here to have that discussion around, are there businesses in the Harbour Innovation Centre? Is there a sort of waiting list for the Harbour Innovation Centre? Could any of those businesses potentially be accommodated over at Magna Park? And as well as sort of feeding into that sort of move on space, if there's businesses that are sort of due to sort of move on within the Harbour Innovation Centre. So yes is the answer to that. There will be dedicated grade A office space in there, and we wouldn't be adverse to sort of local businesses using that space. I think it is well recognised that there is a shortage of office space within the Lutterworth area. So flexible uses, and we'll be looking to work with yourselves as an authority in terms of how we best use that space. Really, having spent a lot of money, sort of building and converting the space and fitting it out, we want to make sure it's used. And it's also good from a kind of a surveillance perspective and security in terms of having businesses there regularly as well, and having that activity. And then your previous question was on solar panels. Yes, and you feel like a little bit of a broken record, not only myself, but sort of kind of, industry as well. I was at a dinner last night with Joanna Averley, the chief planner, and solar panels was a sort of hot topic. The issue with the grid still remains. So the ability to connect, to provide power that's been generated into the grid continues to be a problem. It's an acute problem in the East Midlands. The queue to get into the grid is several years. We are not adverse to putting panels on the roof, but there's this sort of delay. We won't, as a business, and I think it's the same for any business in the logistics and industrial sector. You wouldn't commit to putting panels on the roof unless you had that certainty that any power that's being generated could actually go into the grid. The roof on this building will be fully designed, capable for accommodating panels, so that's all sort of future proofed. And it's also quite sort of occupier led as well in terms of what the end user wants as well. So it's working with that end user once they're established in terms of understanding what their requirements are, and whether panels works well for their business as well. So it's certainly not something that we're ruling out, but there are still those sort of wider national constraints. I know there's a lot of lobbying going on at central government level to try and sort of alleviate this issue. So it's, and that's something that we're contributing to.
Yeah, just briefly. Yeah, very brief. Do you supply placement, summer internships for students and other young people to work in and get into logistics?
Not directly as a business. Our business is development as such, but we work very closely with the CLEAR project based at Magna Park, and making sure that the college, so that's South Leicestershire and North Warwickshire College, have access to the businesses. So there's that kind of collaboration there. There's another academic institute on the park as well called Tomorrow College, if anyone's familiar with that. They work specifically with SEND students, so young people who have some learning challenges, have difficulties getting into the workplace. They operate out of MPN 3 on the park, and that's a collaboration with Iron Mountain, who occupy 2 of the buildings on the park. And that program is specifically designed and tailored for those individuals to work within the warehouses, and not only Iron Mountain, but also across the park as well. So there are a number of initiatives in place for internships. Things we did a big event with Lutterworth College recently as well, where we had a number of students come and spend nearly a week at the park, going into businesses, spending some time with us, learning about development and things like that. So we have Angela on the park. She's the permanent Magna Park manager, and there's a lady called Kaylee and her role is she's a community liaison manager. So her role is specifically to work with the local community, schools and businesses on initiatives like that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure Mr. Stubbings will invite all the councillors in the near future to have a look around the park, won't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
yeah. We had the rugby MP there last week who spent a lot of time with us, and yes.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbings. Thank you very much. Would you
Thank
like
you.
to go back to your seat? Oh, sorry, Councillor Bannister. Is it on a quick one?
I'm sure it's quick because I'm such an amateur on these sort of things, and that's the solar panel question. And you say you're waiting for the National Grid, which takes maybe another 2-3 years before you can do it. I was just wondering, do you necessarily need to wait for the National Grid? I mean, there is battery storage facilities available. Why can't you operate the solar panels with battery storage to feed the energy back into the warehouse?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's something that I think on where we are with sort of the park at the moment, we've obviously, getting towards the tail end of development on the park. Members will be aware that, we're looking at the possibility of a further expansion of the park. And as part of those proposals, what we're looking at is very much that. It's an on-site energy centre that would have a number of batteries, so we could put the panels on, retain the power that's generated, and then feed that to individual buildings. So if one user's not using a lot, and one is, they can sort of share it between them. So you create a closed loop circuit. So that's something we're sort of looking at. We sort of probably feel we've maybe missed the boat a little bit on this where we are now, but it's trying to, as you say, it's trying to find a solution to the problem that we just manage it ourselves and aren't dependent and reliant on National Grid.
Okay, thank you. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to the committee now. Councillor Wellband. Are you proposing it, Councillor Wellband? And you're seconding it, right? I think we've said everything that needs to be said. So we'll go to the vote. Proposed by Councillor Wellband, seconded by Councillor Graves. That we approve. Over to DS.
Thank you. Yeah, just for approval, for, against, abstain. Councillor Bannister.
You've worn it out.
Oh no.
Yes.
Four.
Thank you, Councillor Borrell.
Four.
Councillor Elliott.
Four.
Councillor Graves.
4.
Councillor James.
4.
Councillor Scott.
4.
Councillor Wellband.
4.
Councillor Dr. Bremner.
4.
And Councillor Mrs. Page. Lovely. So that's 8 for 1 abstain. So the application's approved.
Thank you very much. So the application is approved, and that's our last application. So thank you, everybody.
Sorry.
Good night.
There's a coat being left under a chair down there.
I'll close the meeting at